Any issues? Okay, a couple of you. You just leave earlier next time, I think is the word of advice. No, I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you, our esteemed guests, our industry leaders and valued partners. A big welcome to the South African Funeral Industry Summit 2025. I believe this is the first one. I think we should put our hands together for that. The only conference, ladies and gentlemen, where we all know that the customer journey has a guaranteed final destination. Wow, it's a good one. Now, it's obviously proudly brought to us by 360 Administration and Systems. So my name is Themba Robin. I have the privilege of being your MC and program director today. Well, I was thinking to myself, what would an insurance-esque event be without a little disclaimer? So I thought I should bring you guys a disclaimer, and my disclaimer for you guys today is no matter what your eyes make you believe, whatever you're thinking right now, please don't believe that I was ever in a Leon Schuster film. That is another guy completely. So, as I said, my name is Themba Robin. That's my stage name. My full name is actually Themba Robin Behrens. I tend to leave the Behrens bit out because it's German. And as you guys can tell, I'm too short to be German, so that we leave it to rest. But I do get the Leon Schuster thing quite a lot. I was at Nickel Way, which is now Winnie Way shopping center the other day, and a lady walking by, she stopped. She said, "Hey, you're him. You're him." So I said to her, "No, I'm not. I don't know what you're actually referring to." I said, "I'm not." So she said, "No, you're him." So I said, "I'm not the guy from Leon Schuster's film." Said, "No, you are him." So to get out of the situation, I just agreed with her. She asked me for a napkin. I signed it for her. Guys, I'm not very good at signing anything. I barely know my own signature. Now I've got to do Shorty's signature. I was there, but I signed it to get out of it. As I was walking away, she said to me, "Stop. Do the laugh. Do the laugh for us." I tried, I dug deep. I went, You've never seen one person look at another person with so much disappointment. She tore up her signature and said, "You know, you're right, you're not him." So I've learned a valuable lesson. Just be upfront and straight about everything. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so as we say, you guys will appreciate a couple of rules. And so we do have a couple of house rules in the place today. Smoking, obviously not inside the building, straight out the back. If you need the lavatory, the loos are on the left-hand side as you exit. When we have our speakers and our panelists up here, we just ask that everybody put their phone on silence. Of course, we understand that this is an industry that never sleeps. Customers might do from time to time. But okay, I'm glad you guys are online with that humor, because I nearly had to lose all my funeral jokes earlier. But if anybody does need to conduct any business, we have a business center upstairs. So you can take phone calls, attend to your emails or anything up there. We just ask that you are mindful of everybody else in the room when you get up to head up there. Right. And then if there's an emergency, don't stress. You're either going to get out, and if you don't think you're going to get out in time, now's time to start finding some services within the room. There's lots of capable people here for that. To give you a little overview of what you can expect today, between now and 10:30, we're going to have an opening address, we'll have a keynote speech, and then we'll have a fireside discussion. Just a quick note to everybody, we don't have too much time to do Q&As today, but the materials will be uploaded onto the internets and platforms later, so we encourage you guys to engage on there if you have any questions after the fact. And then we have two competitions today. Our first competition, hopefully you guys brought your business cards. You'll find at the registration desk there was a box. You've got to put your business card in there, and then we're going to do a draw a little bit later. And that draw is to win a 15,000 Rand marketing campaign sponsored by Ecom. And that's consisting of an online audit and a discussion and implementation around a detailed marketing strategy. So if you want to elevate your business to the next level, we have that Ecom competition running, so make sure you get your business card in there. And then we also have Master Drive has sponsored us a prize. Of course, K52, or was it K53? What's the driving thing? Well, doesn't matter. It's merely a suggestion. We all know that a four-way stop is about having the biggest car, and therefore it might be handy to do a defensive driving course. So Master Drive has given us 10 opportunities. We've got 10 tickets to do a defensive driving course, and we'll do that a little bit later also. As we said, this is the first inaugural event, and it is awesome to be here, but we have to take a moment to thank all the parties that it takes to make this all possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. So we have our platinum sponsor, who is KGA Life. We have our gold sponsors, Incubate with Assupol. We have our silver sponsors, BitVenture, Altron, and King Price, who is also the program lanyard and stationery sponsor. We have our digital sponsor, who is QLink, and our exhibitor sponsors, which is Peach Payments, Pay at Q, Netcash, StratCol, One Life, Octomator Education, Masthead, and EasyPay. We have our gift bag sponsor, Ecom, our emerging innovator sponsors, Catalyst, Linbaz, and Master Drive. We have our media partner, Fern News, for 2025, our program supporter, who is Cover, and of course our event partner, ChilliPix Events. So a lot of people came together to make this happen, as you can see. All right, so unlike policies, I'm not one to believe in waiting periods, so I think we should jump right in with an opening address, ladies and gentlemen. We are about to learn more about the vision and the purpose of SAFIS 2025. So introducing two individuals who know and who are as enthusiastic about funeral insurance as anybody. It's rumored that their first words were, in fact, terms and conditions apply. From 360 Administration and Systems, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Marius Brits and Stephen Sands.
Stand outside.
Morning, everyone. Thank you. I would like to start off by perhaps telling a story and painting a scene for you, if you will. It's a Sunday. You've just settled down into your favorite chair. You've put your comfortable jammies on. Sheldon, you know those, eh? The ones with the holes. Those are the ones that fit lacquer. The ones that your wife always says, no, we're going to throw those away. You hide them in the top of the cupboard. You're sitting in your armchair. You're relaxing. The TV's on. Ominous music plays in the background. And as every South African knows, on a Sunday night when Carte Blanche plays, my friend, your weekend is done. So I get a phone call. It's James. I used to go to school with him. To pick up, how's it? No, I'm good. Moving. Friday? Couple boxes. I'm there. See you, my man. Cheers. Friday rolls around. Go to James's house. No. Not a couple of boxes. There's his granny with her boxes. There's a Labrador with the Labrador's boxes. There's 85 boxes full of James's junk. There's a grand piano. I'm like, no. I didn't sign up for this, James. So you might be wondering why I'm relating this story to you. Because something similar happened to me 3 months ago. I'm sitting in my office. Someone pokes his head around the door. Let's plan a summit, he said. It'll be fun, he said. And folks, here we are. From sleepless nights, to stress, to anxiety attacks. So what are we doing? What have we bitten off? I don't know. But Maury, I look at these people here today and I look at what you have achieved. And I can honestly say well done from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
Incredible effort. We had over 300 people registered to attend the event today. I don't think we quite made that. I know there was a bit of a traffic issue, but I'll take the 300 online. Take the 300, and then over 1,000 people registered online. To me, that just indicates that there is a great need for what we have put together today. It's for you guys. We're going to educate the industry. We're going to collaborate, and we're going to work together. So by saying that, I would like to invite you all, on behalf of Pol 360 and 360 Administration and Systems, to our first event. Thank you. Over to Maury.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, so our company basically started, we never put ourselves as a system. We're not just a systems company. We've always believed in helping our clients through this journey. We've become more consultants than anything else. So that's why we're all here today, because we believe we need to take our clients by the hands, we need to guide them through this journey. There's compliance, there's system integrations, there's payment partners, everything involved in this industry. So in saying that, that's where SAFIS basically came from. So I just want to firstly say thank you to all the sponsors, all the partners, because without them, we wouldn't be a company and this event wouldn't be possible. And then secondly, I want to say thank you for everyone that's attended this function today. We know you all have very important stuff to go and do, so it means a lot to have all of you here today. And then lastly, I would really like to say thank you to the staff at 360. I mean, it's been 3 months of work to get it where it is today, which is an achievement in itself. And then I would like to say thank you to ChilliPix. ChilliPix is our event partner, the creative partner, and they helped us put our vision into light. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for being here. Themba, over to you.
No, I'm good, my man. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. That gets us off to a good start indeed. Stephen, you're talking about the boxes and rocking up and not having or seeing too many boxes. I, for one, have personally helped Stephen pack up an inflatable slide. You know, the ones for children? And it'll be fun, they said. After the second time we rolled it up, we thought we should get some professionals in. Okay, who is the person with the holy pajamas? You pointed at someone who said, oh, Sheldon. Okay, note to all the gentlemen in the room. Valentine's is coming up, guys. Just get yourself one complete pair of undies. I think the ladies will definitely appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time to get to our first keynote address of the morning. It is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker from KGA Life, who will share insights into the evolving landscape of funeral policy administration. I welcome a senior sales executive and business manager with 28 years of leadership experience to share insights on how AI and lean methodologies can reshape the South African funeral industry. So, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Rian Langenhoven.
The last time I had this much spotlight on me was when my wife started asking me questions, which I didn't have answers to. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Firstly, thank you very much to Marius, Stephen, and the team for letting me be here today. Few things excite me more than speaking to business owners, and I assume most of the people in here are owning some sort of a business administration or funeral. So KGF has been a bespoke funeral underwriter for about 38 years, almost 40 years. So we've got a lot of history in the industry. People who don't know our name, we are basically in the background. A lot of our clients are sitting here today, but we don't enforce our logo or company profile on them. We let them be the leaders in the industry. I've been handed a bit of research which really opened my eyes this week. And we always think, who's the market leaders in the industry? Who's selling the most policies? And this is the latest research, came out a few months ago. And AFBOP, market leader, 100 years in the industry. Metropolitan Clientele, Old Mutual, I think 200 years in the industry. But I'm not giving you the full picture. There's a new entrant who started only a few years ago that is killing it out there. Clientele. The latest industry figure shows that they are selling 30% of all new policies in South Africa at the moment. They are the biggest opposition to anyone in this room. If you're selling funeral policies, look out. They've got over, I think, almost 900 branches selling funeral policies. They made 3.5 billion rand profit last year from funeral alone. If there was ever a threat after COVID, I would say, if you're a funeral parlor, this is the biggest threat. They are selling at a rate that is incomprehensible. Within 8 years, they became the market leaders versus the opposition that's been selling for 100 plus years. That is astonishing. So the question I always ask is, how do you compete with someone like that? That's why you're here probably today, to look for answers. So I always believe that one of the biggest signs of respect you can show business owners is when you tell them the truth. And that's why I want to be here today, is to show you what's possible and what it takes to win against big corporates. Because the reality is, as we're sitting here, they are targeting our clients. They are targeting policyholders via SMS, via whatever format. But I believe Capitec is the biggest threat to funeral parlors out there. There's 15 million active policies at the moment. I'm not counting the self-insured part of the industry, but from a normal funeral, 15 million. Capitec has got 20% of that already. And they are just gearing up. I was at a function not too long ago, end of last year. There was a senior executive of Capitec. He didn't want to divulge too much, but he did say this, which really stuck with me. We haven't found a pocket of people that's never heard of funeral before. There's no blue sky or blue ocean, as they call it. We are aggressively stealing market share from funeral parlors. That's their strategy. So, in saying that, I would be very interested in knowing how do you compete with that. Because so we're also still a family-owned insurer for almost 40 years. So how do we compete? And it's actually not that difficult. 53% of the current population in South Africa are covered by funeral. So it's still a huge market out there to capture. There's 15.3 million active policies. 57% of all insurance products sold are funeral at the moment. That grew from about 45% before COVID. What's also interesting is that the market is now only back to pre-COVID numbers. The market hasn't grown. From COVID, it went down. It's now back up to pre-COVID numbers. But the companies selling policies has increased tremendously, which means the market are tougher than it's ever been for funeral parlors trying to sell policies. So how we compete with the big corporates, how we help our clients compete, is with using AI to our advantage, which will be discussed in depth today, but also incredible focus on process engineering. Looking at every process in the business. Is this process making money or is this process losing money? I'll use a typical example. So before we started this journey of re-engineering our business, maybe this will sound familiar to you. A policyholder would go to a funeral parlor underwritten by us, let's say Rustenburg. They go to the funeral parlor staff gives them a list of documents they would need, all certified. Does it sound familiar? They bring back those documents. The funeral parlor, to a degree, assess the claim. They check all the documents. They then scan it in and mail it to the administrator, who does exactly the same. Prints it out, check all the documents for certification, scans it all back in, and mail it to the underwriter. Does it sound familiar? Does it still happen today? So we believe there should be a better way. So what we did was we went back to the drawing board and said, if something in our business does not make sense and is not cost effective and streamlined, we're going to change it. Doesn't matter what the industry thinks or the staff thinks, we're going to change it. So with integration, with the help of AI, the new reality for our clients are the following. You can claim via WhatsApp as a policyholder. You can literally send your name on WhatsApp to us and the claims process take over. We ask only for an uncertified death certificate. Only document. No claim form to be filled in, no certified BIs, none of that. Because the reality is, if the premium is paid, if the waiting period is over, if the cover did exist, and the person did die, there's nothing else to check. Isn't that true? Yet most insurers still today are asking for all these documents that actually doesn't mean much because there's electronic or tech ways of getting exactly the same answers. So our typical process time at the moment, we'll discuss some of it later in one of the breakaway sessions. We process, our average processing time for claims is about 17 minutes at the moment. After 17 minutes, whoever submitted that claim, being the funeral parlor or the policyholder, gets notification that it was approved and payments follow after that. So why that's important for the funeral parlor is something that people who don't own businesses will never understand, and that's cash flow. So if you submit a claim and you get paid the same day, the funeral parlors made their profit before they've done the funeral. They don't have to use their own cash flow to start arranging and buying stock etc. So everything we do is with the eye so that we can help our clients become more efficient, spend less time on administration and more time on selling, which is the most important thing in business. If you've ever owned a business and you don't realize, and you're not selling every day, you are not winning every day. It's as simple as that. And most of the people in this room, as I said, own businesses. And you can ask yourself, I always say your time budget is as important as your money or your financial budget. How much time did you spend the last month on selling, growing, versus admin, compliance, documentation, processes that adds no value, massive compliance departments, for instance, like we used to have, that adds no value. Clients aren't willing to pay for that. So we believe the best thing that we could do for our clients is to help them sell more and do less admin and save money in that way. So what we've done is we've integrated with Pol 360, is our biggest partner in terms of systems, and on behalf of all our clients, we've integrated with everything you see there. So the reason for that is because in the funeral industry, we've realized that if you're a funeral parlor owner or an administrator, you're going to have to go do all of that on your own. So we did it on behalf of all our clients. It's free to all our clients. The moment they start with us, we give them this for free. They can use it. They don't have to use it if they want to. But the idea is that you rather spend your time selling than going to Stellenbosch, integrating with any of these guys. Payat, for instance, it'll take you a few months. You switch it on today with us, and it's there free of charge. So what does that mean? So over the last 5 years, we've gone through this process. The biggest change in our business is with using artificial intelligence by streamlining, revisiting every process in our business. Doesn't matter which process it was. Our operational expenses are 80% lower than what it was before COVID. To give you an idea of what this means, we deal with hundreds of claims a day. As you can imagine, we've got over 500 funeral parlor clients. We've got one permanent person in claims. We've just switched on our latest AI model where we assess 100% electronically, 100 claims every 7 minutes without any mistakes. So that helps our clients, again, with cash flow, but you don't have to go collect documents, mail it to us, etc. I want to ask you another question. Are you still on a system, policy administration system? Your administrator is on a different system, and your insurer is again on a different system. When we looked at this, we said it makes no sense because now we're relying on data sheets being emailed every day. We used to get hundreds of mails a day. Here's my data. I'm claiming for this person. We can't find him. We can only see 10,000 cover. No, but you've got the old data. He's got 20,000 cover. We used to have call centers dealing with queries on claims. We've got none of that anymore. We've actually got no person in our business in administration anymore because of these tools. So we integrate with partners like Pol 360 to help us get the edge versus the big corporates with unlimited funds, which is impossible to compete with. So the best way we feel you can compete is by eliminating everything to do with waste in your business, lean methodology. Every process has to be lean, bringing in money, as little as possible, touching documents, etc. But more importantly, what does this mean for our clients? We onboard new funeral parlor clients or administrators. Within less than an hour, you'll get an electronic contract. No more faxing, no emailing. Then we give you the fully integrated system free of charge that's integrated with everything I've just seen. So you can, from day one, start submitting claims. You can start managing your policies. You can start selling on your phone and use Netcash as debit order facility, Payat as a payment option, and everything that we've integrated with. From day one, you can submit claims on a WhatsApp line. From day one, you can alter policies, of course, on the policy management system. So the biggest advantage of all of this is not just to us, but we give our clients an edge. If we go back to that claims process, I'm just using Soweto as an example. So if you're operating a funeral parlor in Soweto, you've got, I'm guessing, 100 funeral parlors, same vicinity. And if you're asking only one document at claim stage, if you can make it that easy for your policyholders, then surely you've got a competitive advantage versus everyone else who's still asking for 8 documents and certified. So we see our clients that using this to their advantage have a strategic advantage versus their opposition. Because to be real, you have to start selling at massive numbers to compete with the big guys. So every minute you're not spending on sales, but rather documents, assessing claims, administration. For instance, selling still on an application form, taking it back to the office, capturing. I mean, that's completely unnecessary with the tools that we've built with Pol 360. You can literally start selling from day one with us on a cell phone, and that policy will never have to be captured again. No emailing of data. We still have clients emailing us data, but they're not integrated with us in Pol 360. But we are on the same system as our clients. So when they process a policy or submit a claim, we see it within seconds. We don't have to ask for data sheets. We don't have to open data sheets. We don't have teams of people looking at data sheets or looking at mails. Everything is integrated directly with our clients, which shortens everything. And of course, we don't have any clients phoning us to ask, where is my claim? It just does not exist in our business anymore. We've actually got a receptionist still. We've still got incoming a telephone line, but I just can't remember when last it rang, because we communicate with the clients via WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, whichever way you want to contact us, we see it immediately, and all incoming communication, questions, policy details, claims are resolved, as I said, with under 20 minutes. Even our monthly billing is automated. We don't have admin staff anymore mailing out manual statements. Whatever's on the system that you manage is what's going to be billed, whatever that is. If the policy book grew, if the policy book shrank, the same will be on the statement. We don't have capturers anymore. I remember in the old days, we used to have admin teams, 40, 50 people, processing invoices at the end of the month, dealing with queries. How did you get to this amount? I never had 10 extra policies. You're charging me too much. That does not exist anymore for our clients. That's 100% integrated. It is so tough to make profit in any business today. That's why I've got so much respect for business owners. I think few people realize how tough it is to make money, especially when there's, like in our industry, thousands of competitors. It's so difficult to have a competitive advantage. So in our motto, what we believe will assist, and what we're doing every day to assist our clients, is not to bug everyone with, let's say, compliance, or fill in forms, or do this because we have to process reports. All we focus on is helping our clients save money by re-engineering processes, by giving them the tools to focus on the most important thing in business, and that's sales, in our opinion. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rian. Very insightful indeed, and I know what everybody's thinking with all this optimization, with all this no sending statements, no more capturing data, no more telephone ringing. You must have the most stressed out receptionist in the whole world. No job security. She's just sitting there wondering which day the big axe comes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to head off with our first fireside chat of the morning. This is sponsored by KGA Life and Incubate with Assupol. Obviously, due to health and safety reasons, we can't have a physical fire here, but just imagine it to be here. All right. Our fireside discussion is going to be hosted by Rianet Whitehead from Fern News, our official media partner for 2025. We're going to welcome back our optimization expert, Rian Langenhoven, and then he'll also be joined by an individual who can calculate your life expectancy just by looking at your lunch order. An actuarial and a risk expert, a fellow of the Actuarial Society of South Africa, Musiwa Nyadzani. So we'll get you guys up and we'll commence with our fireside discussion.
Net enige plek. Anyway. Thanks.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. I just want to clarify, it's FA news and not FA news, but that's a small technicality. Rian, welcome back. Msiwa.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Morning.
So I think our discussion today is mainly around the difference between standard funeral insurance and micro-insurance. And I think after your introduction, there's a few things that we can talk about. When you give me some of the answers, Rian, I think you've highlighted all the amazing things that KGA is doing, but I think from a general industry perspective, it would be good to get the general feel of what's happening and not specifically at KGA, just to get the whole picture. So I think to set the scene, I want to give a little bit of context and background before I go into the question. So the micro licensing framework under the Insurance Act, which was signed into law in 2018, aimed to formalize funeral insurance by lowering entry barriers for informal providers, promoting competition, economic growth, and job creation. The question is, has it achieved its goal? The FSCA and PA recently acknowledged industry concerns, calling for a review of funeral insurance regulations. Challenges include high capital requirements, complex licensing processes, and restrictive underwriting criteria, which have limited market entry and joint venture opportunities. Even under the traditional underwriting model, compliance challenges and misinterpretation of regulation are hindering effective service delivery. So, is micro-insurance still viable in the funeral space specifically? As a panel, we will delve into that, look at the benefits and drawbacks compared to traditional insurance. Siwa, I think between the two of you, let's open the floor. Can you just explain the difference in terms of coverage, affordability, and accessibility, standard life funeral versus micro? Maybe you can open the floor for us.
No, thank you very much, and greetings everyone on the floor. So, as she said, I'm from Incubate with Assupol, so we are a micro-insurance self-captive provider. Our really objective is to empower emerging and established businesses to gain access to the full value chain of the insurance businesses. So if we look at the question that she's posed to us, if we go back for those of us who have been around for a while, you know, in 2010, 2011, there was a micro-insurance policy framework which the regulator intended to transform the insurance industry, to get more emerging people, businesses, that some of them in the floor here, to participate more meaningfully in the insurance industry. So if you look at the differences, there's differences in terms of the capital requirement. They've reduced the minimum capital requirement from a standalone micro-insurer from 15 million to 4 million. They've also reduced in terms of the operational and governance requirement in terms of what requirements do you need to comply with on a quarterly, yearly basis to make it more easier for small and emerging businesses. So if you look at coverage, and we constrain ourselves specifically to funeral because we are in a forum for that, there's really no difference between a standalone insurer and a micro-insurer. The regulator intended to make sure that there's a level playing field so that, and this is not surprising if you recall the numbers that we were saying. To say funeral is a well-penetrated product, well-distributed, and well understood by clients in the various communities. So you don't want there to be a gap between a micro-insurer and a standard insurer. However, there's envisaged, the regulator did envisage that there could be a difference in terms of the cost. Because of the capital efficiency from a micro-insurance, you do expect micro-insurer to offer much more affordable products as they pass that benefit back to the consumer. Secondly, because of the distribution channels that they have, they are already in the communities. They don't have to travel, they don't have to have a call center to be able to distribute this product. It's expected that it will be much more easier. But that really depends on the micro-insurance business itself, whether how are you passing that down to the end consumer. I hope I've done justice to your question.
Rian?
So I always say I'm a realist. If you're selling cell phones, if you're selling funeral insurance, if you're selling policies, it's the same principles. What are you doing to generate profit? So if I was in the funeral industry, not in the underwriting side, You know what you're charging per policy. Just a typical example. Let's say it's 100 Rand. Let's say you pay the underwriter 30 Rand, 40 Rand of that. The underwriter must still pay claims. From experience of 38 years in the industry, I can tell you, to make money from an underwriting side is near impossible. Therefore, the last 5 years that we've spent on reducing our OPEX, re-engineering the whole business. So my first answer to someone who wants to investigate microinsurance is, that's not your core business. And if you want to do that to make money, I can tell you from the start, there's no money in it. The only reason why we are so profitable is because we went from 150 staff before COVID to 15 at the moment, dealing with hundreds more clients, thousands more claims a month because of AI and integration like with Pol 360, so that we don't have to have those manual processes. So from a business perspective, if you're doing it to make more money, then I can tell you, you're not going to make more money. If you're doing it because you want to be an insurer, then maybe that's you can do that. From a business perspective, I can just tell you now you're becoming an insurer, a corporate. Now you've got actuaries. Now you've got a lot more compliance. The FSCA know exactly where the insurers are. It's easy to phone us rather than a funeral parlor and ask a million questions. So now suddenly you become exactly what you didn't start the business to become an insurer. You started the business to leverage your strengths, which is probably selling policies, doing funerals, making money in that way. Because remember, you control the price. You're a price setter in the industry as a funeral parlor. You decide what you sell something at. No one dictates to you. When you're an insurer, you're a price taker. That's the big disadvantage. We can't go to a client and say, we want 100 Rand per policy. They will just move on to someone else. We redesigned our business in line with the potential profit, which is next to nothing in the industry. That's where we started this process. So if you own any business and you want to add more cost, it makes no sense. Why would you want to add more cost? Rather spend that money on sales. Capital requirements, for instance, from my experience, clients or potential clients I met with that did go the microinsurance route, it starts with 4 million, it ends on 20 million. Because it depends on the size of your business. If you've got 100,000 policies, you're going to have millions in capital like we've got, which you can never access again. It's money, it's dead money for all due purposes. You have to close down the insurance license to get your capital back. If I had 100 million to invest in the industry, it would not be funeral insurance. On the funeral parlor level, most of the profits are made. And I think everyone knows that. There's no surprise there. Because the funeral parlor sets the price. Underwriters are price takers. We have to comply with 1 million laws that funeral parlors in general don't have to. So my advice is always, depending on your size, microinsurance, I just heard the other day, there's more deregistrations now that there are registrations. The FSCA acknowledged they designed it not for funeral parlors really. It works better for other insurance products. So that's my personal opinion. As I said, I've always come from a business perspective first, regardless of what you do. If what you do is going to add profits and you know how to do it, by all means. It's like if I were putting in petrol in a car in an engine garage, that doesn't mean I understand how to run a garage. That's something completely different. So, and as I said, I come from a business, not from an insurance perspective, just from a normal business.
So I think clearly microinsurers are not necessarily in it for the money, but for the good. So Musiwa, I'm going back to you. Microinsurance in general, we are here for funerals specifically, but do you believe it has achieved the goals it set out to achieve? Is there still a proper place for microinsurance? It's a very important conversation because we're referring to low-income households here. Your comment?
No, thank you. I guess they didn't call it a fire chat for nothing, so I have to wear that gear. I think we must be very careful here not to discourage people from growing their business. The vision might have been to just be a funeral parlor, but the government and the legislative framework is creating a path, particularly to get small businesses to one day end up where we are as KGA, as Assupol, as Incubate with Assupol and the rest. And we must kill the myth right away. If funeral business was not profitable, all those tests that you saw there, all the ChilliPix that came in 3 years, 6 years ago wouldn't have been there. So there's no way that funeral business is not profitable. It's just how the people on the other side, what is the parlor, what is the broker participating in that business that they are writing? They are left only to participate with the commission only. They don't participate in the underwriting profit. I can tell you from an actuarial profit point of view, there is no insurance business will go and put its product out there with a pure intention of making a loss. If you see us underwriting it, putting it in the market, there's profit to be done in there. So has microinsurance legislation achieved its goal? I think it's in the process of achieving that goal. It was promulgated in 2017. We had a COVID period, so we must be fair to the regulators. But if you look at the microinsurers that are licensed now, there are 14 microinsurers that are licensed. 3 of them composite microinsurers, either they can sell short-term and life insurance, and 11 that are life insurers. And majority of them are owned by parlors, brokers that were previously just distributors. They are facing challenges, as he said. Yeah. And part of it is about how do you go about this microinsurance journey. And that's where, from an Assupol point of view, we created a company called Incubate with Assupol, because we do agree with him that the jump from being a broker, from being a parlor to an insurer one night, it's a bit too much. You need to have a transition to go there. But we must not kill the idea that out of a distributor that has been there for years, one day we can have them in his chart to say, XYZ, in our case, Amogelang or Trilets, or could be one of the insurer 10, 20 years later. That ideal in a particular community is strong enough, and we must be able to enhance it. And maybe what we must say, how do they go about it? Because he's right, it started at 4 million. The capital requirement is set as a percentage of premium. As your premium income increases, so you must keep that money in there. But the same applies to the insurers. And their capital requirement is even higher. It's not even 15% of premium. On average, it's 25 to 35%. So why will KGA and Assupol be prepared to keep more aside and leave you out to distribute and not allow you to distribute and participate in your own profits and keep 15% as opposed to 30%? I think there's value for the players that side. And maybe what I didn't mention, that on a cell captive environment, the capital requirement in a cell is not 4 million, it's 250,000. Right? Which many of them could now be able to afford. Of course, it will grow as you grow in there. And what we have done at the Assupol point of view, we've created Incubate, which is of a plug-and-play model. You come with your capabilities, your distribution capabilities, whatever functionality that you have. What you do not have, we give you from our ecosystem. We give you our infrastructure, we give you our branches. Let's say somebody operating Northwest, they want to go to Limpopo. You don't have to go to Limpopo and open a branch. You can use our branch. We share and you leverage our efficiency. He mentioned the same, your administration system. You don't have to go and do that. Similarly, the compliance element, we are the insurer. You are a cell owner, it's ring-fenced. You own 100% of what comes in there. You still continue to do what you do. You still continue to get commission. But when there are profits that insurers have benefited from in the past, you also participate. And I want to end your question to avoid giving you a long-winded answer with what our former CEO used to say, is that as industry, we must admit that we've used parlors and brokers as a conveyor belt in this business. Okay. They have been creating this business for us, and we've been the one making profits for our shareholders. And this legislation is now creating an opportunity for us to share in that value with the people that are actually in the ground, with the people that are actually doing the distribution. Yeah. And it's only fair to do that to these businesses and to see them grow. Yeah.
It takes me to the comment of the importance of partnering in collaboration in our industry, but it links to my next question, which I only wanted to ask later, but I think it's relevant now, the education part. So are we doing enough? I'm talking education from the insurer to the micro-insurer, on the micro-insurance side for businesses to grow, and I'm talking about financial education with clients in the funeral space. Are we doing enough? Is there a better role or bigger role for the broker to play? Because I know there's a lot of brokers also on the FA News platform. Are we doing enough? What can we change? And where does the broker fit in here? Rian? Musiwa?
Sorry. I can see the engine is warm. Yeah. So I think you will never do enough, and we're grateful to Marius and Stephen for creating this platform. This is another way of us educating the players in the industry. And it doesn't have to end here. We as insurer, we need to take this to various community. The regulator on their side, they also have a program to go about to make people aware. You need to understand the structures so that people come into a system or a structure that they understand. I think we need to do that to close that gap. And from Incubate, that's why when we saw this opportunity, we jumped at first place. I think Maria spoke to us 3 months ago, if I remember. It's like, no, we'll be there. We'll put our money to make sure that you spread the word out there, help the businesses that are here to know that there's this thing that they can use. It's not for everyone. Some people just purely want to be distributed. They want to remain where they are. And we must allow those to continue to do businesses with companies like KGA and Assupol. But there are some who say, I've been in this business for years. I spoke to some of our partners. It's like, it's a family business. It's now moving to the next generation. And I said to them, had your parents started in a micro-insurance cell-captive environment, you would have been far. And cell-captive is not new. It has been there before. We have industry players like Galleria that have been operating in the 90s. But the requirement to get there is a bit steep for a small business. That's why a micro-insurance cell-captive comes in play. We need to do more. We are prepared on our side to put our resources to go to various communities, and we even come with a team of colleagues to help those on the ground to be able to have those conversations. Because I think it's only when we open up their eyes that they will be able to see what is available for them and choose in there. But I don't think we are there yet, but I am aware of programs that various insurance companies are doing, the regulator on the side are doing. But I think it's just the beginning. We need to do more, and we must support initiatives like this to make sure that it grows, to make sure that it becomes a regular occurrence in our annual calendars.
Rian, maybe you can touch on the role of the broker.
The role of?
The broker in
terms
the
of
education.
For the staff or policyholders?
No, clients.
Clients. So I just want to mention something. We've got, as I said, hundreds of clients, and a lot of them are considering microinsurance at some stage in their journey. And a lot of them are aware of the 4 million it start. I just want to clarify something, and you maybe can confirm this. 4 million is just the start. I had a client the other day came to me, they've got 100,000 policies, I think I mentioned it earlier. The end result was 20 million rand down the line. So few funeral parlours has got that kind of capital to put aside to gamble that, let's say, COVID won't happen again. So what people miss about microinsurance is, yes, it might be a model that works for some. In my opinion, if you've got only 11 licenses, that speaks for itself. It's just out of reach for most funeral parlours. Yeah. It's a step just too far. It's maybe not as difficult as it used to be to enter, but I think the most important question is, are you going to make more money by doing that? So what works very well for us, because our OPEX is 80% less than what it used to be, we can make deals at much lower margins. So in other words, if you want to make more profit, like some of our clients in this room has got, I call it bespoke agreements with us, where they make most of the profit, by far the most, because we don't need, like we used to, 50% of the premium to pay claims, etc. So if it's profits you're after, I believe there's much easier ways, cheaper ways of making more money in the industry, be more profitable, than having to put away millions and millions of rands in capital, like all the insurers have to, and then it's just money lying there. You can't say, I had a quiet year, next year, give me back some of that capital. It doesn't work that way. So, yeah.
How can the framework be modified to drive small business development and financial inclusion? Because at the end of the day, it was signed in to give more opportunities, more work, more inclusion for many people. It's clear that there are major gaps in the system. What do we change?
So one of the projects we've launched, I didn't mention this earlier, we've got actually clients in this room that just went on this journey with us now recently. So we've launched digital training platforms free of charge for all our clients and their staff, where we cover subjects such as microinsurance. What does it mean? We cover subjects like basic finance. If you're in sales, if you're selling policies, what do you have to know in terms of compliance, T's and C's, etc. So we've designed about 20 online courses, which is free of charge. Okay. And then some of our clients, we do a function afterwards. We're going to do one now for 100 staff members for one of our clients in Johannesburg, where we hand out even certificates to those staff. So we've come up with free training for our staff, our client staff, so that they don't have to spend the money on that. And again, the reason is so that they can spend their time on selling, rather than thinking of ways to educate their staff or their policyholders. We provide those tools free of charge.
speaks to the collaboration and partnership that's so important in our industry.
I think underwriters in general, and I'm talking about KGA as well, has got very little to offer, to be honest. We can't solve all the problems. We can't come up with all the solutions. What we chose to do is to start with the claims process, then education, then collaboration with Pol 360s of the world, payment methods, everything to make it easier for the funeral parlour to focus on what's really important in their lives, which is sales, beating the opposition, having a strategic edge, rather than the funeral parlour trying to be a million things that they're not good at, essentially, what they're not geared to do, which they don't have the experience for. So everything we do, the education part, etc., is trying to help our clients. Because in insurance, unfortunately, if you're a micro-insurer or if you're an insurer like KGA or any of the other brands, all you basically do is put a certificate on the wall. Then you start sending invoices and you want payments and you're looking for reasons not to pay claims. That's the normal journey with an underwriter. So we went back to the drawing board and said, how different will it be if we pay your claims instantly? How big a difference would that be? And then obviously following on that, all the other solutions such as training. Because it's tough out there, as I showed you with Capitec. By the way, Capitec made 250% of all the profit in the industry last year. Everyone you saw on that graph, all their profits combined, Capitec made 2.5 times that profit. So it's very difficult to make profit in this industry. I'm not saying there's no profits, it's just very difficult. But Capitec, of course, has got a footprint that they can use free of charge. They've got very little OPEX and they can sell millions literally.
How long do they take to pay out a claim?
I've got no idea, but they still ask for the 8 certified documents. They don't have the same focus as us, for instance, because they don't need to. They're selling by default.
What is the general time frame in terms of paying claims?
So regulatory-wise, it's within 48 hours, but industry-wise, we try to pay claims within 4 hours, 24 hours. Companies do try their best to do that. I wanted to mention something here to say, and I don't know if it was a deliberate on your side, to say, now that Assupol and Sanlam are now one, we are now actually the biggest insurer in the retail mass market in terms of the number of policies. So I think your slide might need to be updated to reflect our position in the market, to be fair. And I want to answer your question, but we must go back because actually you are technical in number. When we mention number, we must give the audience correct number. Yeah. When your capital requirement becomes 20 million, it means you have a premium income, annual premium income of 133 million. So you must divide that by 15%. So the capital requirement that is increasing, it's not increasing without you having the premium. You are collecting the money to cover it. You're just taking from the premium that you are collecting and you put it aside. You can't use it to run your business. You must keep it to pay claims. So let's not use numbers to scare people to say, well, for you to get to a 20 million capital requirement, you should have an annual premium income of that number divided by 15%, which is 133 million. So if you're not there, then you can't see 20 million capital requirement. So let's not scare people. Because the ideal of them growing into an insurance company is real. It's like telling me I come from Limpopo, so you can't be an actuary because it's so difficult to pass the exam. Yes, it is difficult, but it's doable. We are saying to them, you need to be aware of what you need to have as a micro insurer. And if you don't have those capabilities, have a partner that can use their expertise and their system and their staff to help you on the journey, so that you can gradually build up your capacity, so that it's not a once-off thing. We must be very careful not to kill something wonderful that our government has done for the industry for a change, purely because of individual existing company interests. And I mean, we had the same crossroad as where they are, to say there's macro insurance legislation coming. Do we see them as competitor? Or do we see ourselves with our 112 years experience that we have a role to play in building this industry? Yep. We chose the empowerment route. And this is so serious to us that we even, in our agreement with us, we even put it as an objective in the agreement to say we are co-creating insurers of the future. Number two, in your cell captive, we can't be the majority share owner. You must be the majority because otherwise it dilutes our requirement. Yep. Number three, the regulator in our license, they made it clear that your purpose is to go and help transform, and we'll be monitoring you throughout this journey. So we are committed to doing that. And when you see these two organizations, Assupol and Sanlam, put in their resources, planting it back to where they've grown, how they've developed to help other businesses. We can't easily just kill that. I believe in the room here. I believe in the audience here. There are people that might be in the licensed phases, but if we support them, they can actually be where we are. And we must not kill that dream easily.
I love the passion here from both of my panel members. Don't you agree? I think it's a good question now to ask from a pure business perspective. As a funeral parlour broker or distributor, when does it make sense to get your own microinsurance license versus partnering with a licensed insurer? Rian, maybe you can answer that for me.
Well, I think when it makes business sense, it's as simple as that. The answer is different for every person in this room, depending on your size, policy book, your claims. Obviously, the higher your claims are. So what we're seeing with our, as I said, we've got hundreds of clients. So we use AI to analyze data all the time. So in our session later on today, we'll show some examples. So a client would come to us and say, I want to open a branch in, I'm using Rustenburg as an example. Within half an hour, we can tell them exactly what the market looks like, who's the competitors, what they're selling, at what price, what's your potential market. If you've got 10,000 policyholders, that equates to, let's say, 1% of potential market share. Someone else has got 99%. Those are the kind of discussions we've got with clients. So the answer for me is different for every business. It depends on your needs. If you want to be an insurer, then that's a relatively easy way of doing it. I always say, and no disrespect to anyone, if you allow someone else, let me rephrase, if it makes financial sense for your business, the owner's going to want to do it, whatever that is. If it's normal underwriting, microinsurance, doesn't matter. So the answer might be different. If you've got 10,000 policyholders, for instance, or you've got 100,000 policyholders, the answer might be completely different. So the claims is a massive factor. So if you've got, sorry, what I wanted to say was, so I'm taking a sample again of Soweto. We've got 4 clients in Soweto. The claims experience is so vastly different. You would think they serve the same policy book. You would think they serve the same market, the same affordability. Their claims experience is so vastly different that, let's say they were all to go to microinsurance route, their capital requirement will be vastly different because of the claims. If your claims are $1 million a month, capital requirements will be X. If your claims are 100,000 Rand a month, your capital requirement will be less. So I think I like to believe that business owners make decisions that works for them. It might be any route, but I don't think there's a clear cut, a yes or a no.
Do you agree, Musiba?
Yeah, for a change, we agree to say you don't have a one size fit all. You must assess each business based on its functionality, its numbers. And what we do on our side, we do a business model. We show to the parlor or to the broker, this is what your business looks like. This is your income statement. This is your expenses, and this is the profit that are in your book. And this is the capital that you need to inject to support this business. You take them in that journey, and they decide if they want to come in the end. He's right. Experiences will differ from one place to the other, and therefore it's important that you customize your offering to the needs of that business. For example, different businesses, some of them only have a distribution capabilities, and like you said, they just want to remain as a parlor. But there's a growing number of them that says, you know what? I don't want just to stay in here. I'm currently a parlor broker because that's what I knew when I came into the industry. Now that I know more, I want to grow into the industry, and we must be able to capacitate and to help them grow in there. For us, he's talking about money. We even within our businesses, we even allow you to come and interact with our business funding to get this capital, to make sure that if you don't have the money and your business case makes sense, you don't have to go elsewhere and look for money. We ourselves will put our money in your business to make sure that you succeed. And that's why we feel it's something that is not common in the industry. And you can see how young I am. When this opportunity was brought to us, we ran with it. We realized there's something that we can do as an industry here. And if in the next 10, 20 years, we get a few parlors or brokers that will have started in Free State, and now I see their brand everywhere else in the country, and now you from the media, you cover them. That to us is a success story. If you can't get to a license story, to that level, you can be in a cell captive and share in the profit. What he's not saying directly is that most people in here, they are forever changing, and sorry to paint you like this, excuse me, most of them are forever changing underwriters. If you ask them what are they looking for, they're like trying to cut as much as possible from that premium. So they want the profit. So rather put them in a cell where they own 100% of the profit. Then they won't have to change, they won't have to move from this person to that person, because at the heart of it all, they realize that, no, you're making money from my shirt, and I'm not getting anything. So I want an extra 5 rand. If Assupol can give me, I'm moving my book there. If KGA can give me, I'm moving my book there. But actually what they want, you can put them in one structure. You own 100% of the profit that comes from your book. Then there won't be any changing of insurer from one insurer to the other. There won't be any confusion from the client to say, last time you sent me an SMS to say Assupol is my insurer, this time this one is my insurer. What's happening? So the objective is really there, and it's clear, and I think there are people who are buying them. There are others who came to us and say, we have went through the license, direct license ourselves. We didn't realize that it will require this much. Is there room for us? No, we can go and talk to the regulator with you. So you have made an application for a license. You believe if you get the license, you're not ready yet, but you want to go through it via the cell captive. And then once you are ready in the cell captive, you can go and apply for your license. And what we call it, you graduate. And what he's not saying is that sometimes even when you graduate, we do realize that you might not have the capital. In our shareholder agreement, we put it in writing that when you leave, if you want us to be a partner and to want Sanlam and Assupol to invest in your business, you can give us that right. We can give you the capital to say, we believe, Renat, you have been doing well in the cell captive. We believe you have gathered enough experience to understand the policy life cycle from sales, back office function, that you can be able to stand alone on as your own, and we'll be a minority shareholder in the business to make sure that we support you. You get me or somebody of my colleagues, come sit in your board, provide an oversight. That commitment from established businesses that are used to getting profits on their own, it's a significant one, and we must take it as an industry and run with it.
Musi, you're very passionate. I quickly want to ask, and our time is mainly up. I quickly want to ask, is there enough communication between underwriters, between insurers in the funeral space? Do you talk to each other? And I'm specifically referring to sometimes fraud.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
short answer, Musi.
I will try my best. There are industry bodies and companies, I just can't mention them because they are not in there, otherwise Stephen and Marius won't be happy, that help and work with a number of insurers to be able to identify fraud. So they will keep a record of who is claiming where, for how much, and what are they disclosing to the various insurers, and then they can provide that information to us.
Crime Bureau.
So they've centralized that. So there's that collaboration. There's also a collaboration from an ASISA point of view, from an industry body point of view, but that tend to be on bigger governance and related stuff, not necessarily on the day-to-day running of the business. There are also industry bodies. Some of these collection houses here are used by many insurers across the board, so they help with insights, and I think there's a session later on about collection. So there's also that benefit that if you are a client of theirs, you can benefit from their insight.
Do you agree, Rian? Is there enough communication?
So I just want to clarify. So a discussion between underwriters in terms of policy holders, fraud, is that the fraud?
Yeah.
Okay. So when I started at KGA Life, the claims process I discussed earlier, so I would ask the person in claims, the third person doing exactly the same thing as the two previous people did, and I say, so you're printing everything out, and then you start a register. So why is this process so laborious? We're getting 10 Rand premium, but 5 people are dealing with the same claim. Rian, you don't understand. Fraud. So who changed this process? Who started? No, 20 years ago, there was fraud. But why are we still doing this? No, because this is the only way to catch fraud. So instead of wasting so much time on fraud from a policyholder point of view, what we did, we integrated with everyone who does the checks. For instance, Home Affairs. Once someone processed a claim on our Pol 360 system, 2 seconds later, the claim is actually approved. The Home Affairs check is done. It's very difficult to commit fraud once you've got Home Affairs confirming there's a death. We don't care what the person died of. If he died and the premium is paid, it's a valid claim. So instead of having manual checks to try and catch fraud, which you will always make mistakes on, It's very difficult to catch fraud manually. So we rather spend the time and money to integrate with such as Home Affairs and Pol 360 that do the checks instantly.
But it's not
But
necessarily an industry standard.
No, it's not an industry. That's what we decided to do simply because it was so difficult to make a profit on a 10, 15, 20 rand premium when you've got up to 8 people dealing with one claim. What I think is a more important question, because the policyholder fraud, most insurers like ourselves, we limit policies to 2 policies per person. So you can have 100 policies if you want to. I think a more important question when it comes to insurers talking to each other, which is non-existent, is when it comes to funeral parlors that aren't insurable for some instances. Or some administrators, I'm not going to mention names, that is jumping from one insurer to the next and leave 3 million debt, 3 million debt, 5 million debt, etc. And you would never know because I never spoke to the previous underwriter. I'll never forget, a few years back, I was sitting in the office of an administrator who wanted to move to us. And in the office was his current administrator, a whole team of people. And he walked out of there and he said to me, you know, see all those people, they're begging me to stay. 2 years later, after we've lost 5 million rand through him committing fraud, I spoke to that underwriter and he said, we were there to sue him. We were never there to beg him to stay. So I think the industry, the insurers in the industry, when it comes to a scheme or a parlor or brokers, etc., needs to be talking to each other a lot more. Something like a transfer certificate, for instance, doesn't exist anymore. No one is asking for that anymore. And that's very important information. One of the biggest problems in our industry is debt, is bad debt from an insurance point of view, where a broker or a funeral parlor would cancel and just not pay premiums. And then they go to the next insurer and they don't know that they owe the previous insurer a lot of money.
100%. So I think I'm going to end the session.
No, I wanted to add something.
Musiwa,
I'm sorry.
you have to keep it short.
This is important because he's touching on fraud, and there's killing for insurance in our industry. So when we put together claim processes, it must be able to detect this thing. Because if I can just come with your death certificate, I'm sorry, maybe I must use this water. If I can just come with the death certificate of this water, and then you'll be able to release funds without knowing whether I have an insurable interest in this life. That's where you're going to run into losses because you're forever just paying claims. So it's important that when we automate, and there's a discussion about fraud later, we put measures in place to be able to detect fraud because otherwise you can just go and put a cover on this life and you know through whatever your syndicate you'll be able to get a death certificate and then payouts will come out. As an industry, we need to put measure to make sure that we block that. Otherwise, it's going to kill the very same industry. That's why I wanted to add, and it's a scourge that is affecting all of us. But I think we need to fight it head on.
Yeah, I think that's why we have these conversations and sessions like this, so that we can identify the issues. So thank you for your time, Siwa. Rian,
Thank you.
Love your passion. Keep it going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for our panelists there on the fireside. Some great insights. As an outsider, I must say, I find all of this very interesting. One of the things, I've got two things to touch on there. Anecdotally speaking, when I moved to Joburg, one of the first things the guys used to tell us is don't ever answer anybody if they ask you what you do. Somebody comes up to you and says, what do you do for a living? Don't answer them, because they're trying to gauge how much respect to give you. You know, you say you're a doctor, you might get X amount of respect. If you say you're a landscape, you might get something different. And I lived by that rule for the longest time, until I found myself asking the very same question. So elevate yourself, you learn a little bit more. And I ask people the same question. I say, oh, what do you do? Purely because I want to understand how I can plug you into my system. That's the way we go. And I read a quote the other day that kind of sums up that whole thing. And that is, we're fearful of competition, but competition only really happens at the ground level. The people at the top, the people know what's going on. They're about collaboration. So competition, ground level, scrappy stuff. Collaboration is where we all want to be, where we can help each other grow. Another thing that you guys spoke about there, of course, education. Now, there was a group of flight engineers. They were going on a holiday. It was the end of a semester, and they all got on a plane to go fly to some Bali or some nice island. And they're all sitting there after a year of teaching. And somebody comes on the intercom and says, all right, ladies and gentlemen, today you'll be blessed to know that the flight that you're flying on today, the airplane was built by your very own students. In that moment, everybody started running around. Chaos. Chaos ensues. People are pulling their hair out. Except for one gentleman. He sat there in silence. And everyone's running around, crazy, crazy, and they stopped. One guy stopped. He said, "Sir, why are you just sitting there? Didn't you hear?" He said, "Yeah, I heard. Our students built the plane." So he says, "Are you not fearful?" He said, "No, I'm pretty sure it won't get off the ground." So the lesson there is we are all responsible for the education. And I think education in these industries, along with collaboration, is really how we forge forward and make a difference. On that note, I think the brains are full. You guys just about answered everything. We might as well just go home now, I think. No, I'm just kidding. We're to the bar. Bar's open. No, we're going to take a quick break, 15 minutes for some coffee and tea just in the foyer, and then we'll get you guys back. Yes, and Renette, my apologies. FA News. It's booked now. It's on it. Lucky guys, we'll see you in 15 minutes. Thank you. Testing, testing. Sorry, Eugene, I turned my mic pack off just now because Eugene forgot to turn my mic pack off and then I was telling secrets, so I tried to turn off myself. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone have a good coffee and tea. We're back. We're focused. You sure? Everyone hold up your hand like this. 3 fingers. Okay? And now put it on your cheek. Here's your cheek. Okay. So try and let's VUCA, let's be awake. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We're now moving into our second conference segment where we'll be exploring cutting-edge advancements and trends shaping the funeral industry. Some things to look forward to, some topics that we're going to discuss. We're going to look at systems and innovations. We're going to look at an industry payment panel discussion, and as well as regulatory insights, all of that before lunch. Before I do that, though, I did mention we're going to give away a Master Drive prize. And so I think we should do that now. We have 10 defensive driving lessons. I think that's what you call it. But basically, you're going to be taught how to be a defensive driver out on the roads of South Africa. This is dodging potholes, dodging the taxis. You're going to get full marks if you have one of those tracker things from an undisclosed person. Anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to indulge in a little Oprah moment right now. So I'm going to say to you, ladies and gentlemen, if you look under your seats, we have hidden 10 envelopes, and your seat might be holding an envelope. So check underneath it. Hold it up high if you do find one. Because you're getting a defensive driving course. You're getting a defensive driving course. You'll get everyone who gets a thing under their chair. So thank you. Everybody suddenly is showing interest in the empty chairs around them. Have we found all 10? Sure, some people search it. Okay, let's see by show of hands, or maybe you can stand up if you've got one. Just so people know to stop looking. We've got 1, 2, 3, at least 4, 5, 6. So at very best, the rest of you are all fighting for one defensive driving course. All right. But back to our programming, ladies and gents. Okay, so they say nothing in life is certain except for death and taxes. Our speakers coming up now won't be able to help you with your taxes, but they will be able to discuss the latest advancements in systems and innovations and inspire you to be the best in the business. Please welcome back to the stage Marius Brits and Stephen Sands.
I think I'd like to give you guys a little bit of context about where 360 administration and system started and what our vision is, and how we intend on going forward. So, 17 years ago, there were a couple of us working in a garage. It's not like a Steve Jobs story, but we were in a garage at a brokerage. And I can see some people that shared the garage with us. Comrade? In the garage, eh? So there was a couple nerds, and we were working on this archaic system, capturing policies, doing administration on the policies, and we thought, no. Surely, with the advent of this new thing called the internet, there has to be a better solution. So in our spare time, we sat down and we started coding and writing, and that's how Pol 360 was born. Fast forward a couple of years, and an insurer came on board. I think they saw a little bit of trust, and that insurer is still with us today, and I'm exceptionally grateful for that. And yeah, 10 years ago, 360 Administration and Systems was born. So from one little policy we captured, and we were all excited. We collected our first debit order, even more exciting. We started an ecosystem around the system. That then branched into an administration company as well, where we've got a call center staffed by 30 folk. So if you need administration on your funeral policies as a broker, we're the people to go to as well. So our methodology behind the system was, we're going to leverage on the latest technology, and we are always constantly innovating. So in saying that, you have to be ahead of technology, and that obviously comes at a price. So what we did is we used the open source methodology. Open source doesn't mean it's free. Yes, it is free. The tools that you use to develop your software are free, yes. It's more like free speech more than free beer, if that makes sense. And by doing that, we've managed to keep the costs down significantly. So there's none of these huge license fees that all these other big corporations charge you, per user, per that. No, we don't subscribe in that. Our goal is to really keep our systems and our offerings, whether it's a system or the administration or the call center or whatever else somebody wants from us. We do premium collection on your behalf. We do the reconciliation. It's all charged on a per member, per month basis. So I think it's a brilliant model wherein if you're a small company, you don't need to go and lay out thousands. It's all about if you grow, we walk the journey with you, and we can grow together, creating a sustainable ecosystem within your company, leveraging on our technology. So I'm going to hand over to Marius now. He's going to explain to you the tech that we are using, what we currently have, and how we are advancing into the AI space and what we're going to do in future. Over to Maury.
So, thank you, Stephen. So back to what basically Stephen said. We started out as like a bunch of IT guys that were in an IT team for a brokerage, and we had a lot of insight into what is happening, what's taking place, and because of our IT background, we started developing the system that's known today as Pol 360. This system was firstly developed as a web-based system, purely to cut down costs for the end user, which is the brokerages that are here today, the insurance companies, and everybody that today makes use of our system. And from that, through the years, we believed in innovation. So the thing is, we don't follow what the market is doing. We don't look at our competitors. In fact, a lot of our competitors look at what we're doing. We've seen it. It's been proven many, many times. But we try and innovate. The thing is, sometimes some of the stuff works, sometimes they don't. Luckily for us, a lot of them have worked, such as the minute policy. That's one of our greatest innovations in our company. We started this about 6 months before COVID struck. We didn't know COVID was coming. Nobody basically knew what was happening. We sat in a boardroom with one of the insurance companies, and they basically said, let's come up with an idea. Surely we can't capture from paper-based applications. People uploading through portals and all sorts of things to get the documentation to you to capture the policy. Then you wait a month for you to collect premium. And then basically the minute policy was born. The minute policy is a platform where we plug into various verification services. We actually get a client's details, and then we pre-populate it. By doing this, you basically, as a capturer or as an agent, even as a referral, you can go through this whole process, validate the data that we picked up from all of these different credit bureaus, verification services, check that everything is right, go through it. It creates digital signatures through the whole process, and believe me, it's gone through so many compliance departments, because everybody still required a physical signature. It's all digital signatures that we can trace back right to that person at that time. And then basically what happened is now you can onboard a policy within a minute. And it's basically, in our words, revolutionized this whole industry. I mean, we now capture plus minus 50,000 policies a month on that platform alone. It's grown into much more than it, and I'm glad Fern is here today. They're making use of one of our platforms. We said it's now become a referral. So why can't you refer people on it? Why can't you share what you've got with other people and let them on board? If all the checks and things are in place, then you can basically do it. So that's basically the minute policy. Then from the onboarding, we move to self-service. Self-service, because like Stephen said, we in administration, we help our clients with some of the smaller brokerages looking after their call centers, updating their member information, all of those type of things. We went to our head of call center and we asked her, what is basically the queries that you get most? Because I mean, there must be queries that come in every day that people ask the same stuff. And she said about like 60% of this or 60% of the calls are clients asking the same things. And then we basically said, this must be happening at all the brokerages that we're dealing with. And in taking that, we created 6 topics, and there's a picture of it there, can't see it much, but we created 6 topics that people phone in the most. And it's, am I up to date? What is my policy premium? Can I get my policy document? All of those type of things we listed on that platform. And now today, clients can basically, or customers of the brokerages, they can go onto WhatsApp, they can go and see all their information, they can make sure everything is up to date, they can print their policy document. With some of our payment providers, there's a pay link. They can click on that link and they can pretty much make a payment right there and then. Because as we know, payments are key in this industry. And then we didn't stop there. So to jump into like the AI innovation, we've plugged AI into that platform to assist with the claims process. And you'll hear a lot of the insurance providers that make use of our platform, they make use of that. The AI allows you to, or allows a customer to basically press a button to say claim now. It asks them for 2 or 3 simple forms. We pass that through. We make sure all of the validation and things take place. And then basically it submits the claim. And the only thing that needs to happen is the insurer needs to approve that claim. So that's our minute policy that we brought in. Yet another tool that a lot of people are now implementing in the space. I mean, we've seen it in so many other insurance spaces, car insurance and all of those things, but no one ever thought to plug it into the funeral space. And then from there on, we moved to our payment partners. Our system, we take great pride that we integrate with over 20 different payment providers. From debit orders, from in-store payments, from device payments, any type of way that you can think of that you can make a payment, you can do on our system. And it's purely that you can get your premium as fast as you can, and for the clients to make payments as fast as they can. So we integrate with many of these people. Many of them we are fully integrated with their whole platform, and that allows brokerages across the country to come to us and not let them allow to like move to different payment providers and things like that, because we know it's quite a painful process. We'll guide them at which payment providers are the best or best for their industry. And then from there, it's integrations. So our system, we've created a whole integration model that plugs into various verification services, various insurance providers. Purely because I know a lot of the brokerages out here, your insurance company asks you every month to send a file in a certain format, and we create those files every month. And we said, surely this can't be the way that we move forward. We have to actually create APIs to assist these clients. Why not, when someone captures a policy on our system, the insurer, the verification system can get that data immediately? I mean, it's just basically everybody's data can be shared with the right people at the right time when they require it. And then from there, we take back to AI, We've become an AI-first company. I myself have spent quite a lot of time studying AI, diving into it. Our company, our consults with various companies on how AI actually takes place, not just from like a insurance company. And we've plugged that into our whole ecosystem in our company. So our developers use AI for faster development, faster processes, streamline testing, everything that takes place, all the boring stuff that people generally don't see, we've streamlined that by using AI. There's many of our clients here today, I've given many of them a bit of an AI tutorial because people think AI replaces them. Trust me, it's not going to replace you. If you're doing something like picking up, or not even picking up a paper, but if you're literally stamping a paper, then I would get worried. But the thing is, like, everybody here, your jobs are safe. So in saying that, that's where we started making use of AI in our company. We've now started with the process, and many of our users would see it on our system. You've got a little robot man in the corner. That's all AI-driven. It's busy training itself, learning from what people ask. Sometimes it still struggles. I say AI is like a clever 5-year-old. It needs to learn. You can't just throw out AI there and think it's just going to solve every single issue that you have there. You have to learn. And the way that we are doing that is by every single person in this room. Every single person that uses our system, that asks a question, the AI is learning on how to answer those questions. So you don't have to submit an email, wait for one of the support agents to come back to you in 24 hours so you can carry on with your life. You can now ask that AI pretty much what you need. So that's how we've taken a step bringing AI into our company. And then lastly, and probably the most important thing, seeing that we deal with such sensitive data, is cybersecurity. Cybersecurity, I mean, our life is pretty much going through cybersecurity audits because of the information that we deal with. And that is all taken care of by one of our business partners and co-founders. He's sitting there in the corner. He can put up his hand. He's the guy that loses sleep at night to make sure all of your data is protected. Everything is, so no one can hack into your data. No one can actually obtain stuff that they're not supposed to. So we all thank Paul for looking after all of that. And that's pretty much our system. That's what we've got to offer. It's not going to stop there. We've got a lot of things that we're working on. So,
thank you, Maury. I think, that's all pretty much from... Thank you. I think, that's all that we've got to say. I think Rian and Masiwa did a lot of the hard work for us. Thank you for punting us and also for your lively debate. Really appreciate that. It was good. I think in closing, we really want to create an ecosystem, not only providing a system. It's about us in this room. Let's grow together. Let's help one another. Let's have lively debates if you don't agree. We've got a few of our competition here today. I welcome you guys. We're all here to learn. We're here to help one another. We are the captains of this industry. I hate that word, but it's actually true. So guys, please enjoy it today. Soak it in. Roll your sleeves up. Go upstairs. We're going to have exhibitionists not exhibitionists, because that'll be rude. Exhibitions upstairs. Go and engage. Myself and Marius are going to be around. All of the people that were on the panels are going to be around. Ask questions, learn, suggest things. We don't know. It's a very informal, lekker day. So please, have fun. And that's it from 360. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Gentlemen, appreciate it, indeed. Paul, cybersecurity, eh? I've got a question. Might be minor. Might be like not even in your pay grade, like lowness. When I set my password, and then I try to log in and it tells me it's wrong, and then I try to use that password and it says I can't be the same as my previous password. Why does that happen? Because that's very, very frustrating. We're gonna have a cybersecurity conversation there. But I think, I appreciate talking about futurifying yourselves. Of course, we're looking forward to who the target market becomes, and of course, it's a group of people that don't like picking up cell phones and having telephone conversations. It's people who don't like filling in forms. I, for one, I don't like filling out forms. I always put my ID number in where my residential address is supposed to be, and the lady who gives out the forms just isn't very happy to give me another form. And of course, we live in a time, and especially in a place as diverse as South Africa, everybody's names are so different. I can't tell you how often I've been for coffee. Someone says, "So that's a cappuccino for you, sir?" I say, "Yes." And they say, "What name do we put on there?" And they say, "Temba." And then when I get my coffee, 2 minutes later, there's someone yelling out, "Tabo! Tabo, your coffee, Tembo!" So to eliminate all the human error, I think, is an efficient way to move forward. Right about now, though, we're moving on to our industry payment panel discussion. We're going to dive into the evolving dynamics of payment trends, payment system innovations, and the claims processing. And who better to host this discussion than an individual who advocates for customer-centric excellence? His passion for shaping the future of payments continues to influence the industry standards. So please put your hands together as we welcome our panel host, Henny Bluchnout. Joining Henny on stage, we will have Samantha Mills from Netcash. We have Willem Labuskachny from StratCol. We have Joshua Shimkin from Peach Payments. And I think, I'm not too sure, but Nkululeko Tladla from EasyPay. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Eight. You're good. Okay.
Welcome and hello everybody.
Hi.
We're very excited to get into payments. That's obviously one of the most crucial parts of this industry is getting money in and then eventually trying to get money back to the clients as efficiently as possible. So what I want to do is I just quickly want to introduce each of our panelists. If you give me a second. So initially we've got Joshua.
Yes.
From Peach Payments, heading up their marketing and growth team. So Joshua is an accomplished business leader and speaker with nearly 20 years of digital experience. He's successfully built businesses from scratch in Fortune 500 companies and startups using design thinking and lean startup methodologies, driving significant revenue growth, profitability, and brand awareness. That's crucial. Currently, Joshua serves as Head of Marketing and Growth at Peach Payments. He's responsible for scaling marketing efforts across Africa. And Joshua holds an MBA in Finance and Marketing from NYU Stern School of Business. Welcome.
Wow.
Quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So our next panelist, Willem Labuskachny, there at the end, has played a crucial and key role in the launch of StratCol debit orders 21 years ago. Competing against banks and other service providers, he proudly shares their debit order run at the end of 2004 was just over 1,000 debit orders. And now they process more than 4 billion rand per year. Over this time, he played a vital role introducing various collections and payment methods that led the industry, with some service providers now replicating many of their offerings, leaders in the industry. Welcome, Willem. And then next, Samantha Mills. Welcome. From Netcash, she's our sales manager. Samantha is an accomplished sales leader with strong background in finance and a passion for building meaningful client relationships. As a sales manager at Netcash, she leverages her accounting experience and strategic approach to drive business growth and deliver tailored payment solutions. Known for her integrity and high-performance mindset, she excels in fostering trust, navigating complex discussions, and setting new standards in sales leadership. That's very inspirational. Welcome.
Thank you.
And then our fourth panelist, Nkululeko Tladla, product head, bill payments, EasyPay. A results-driven and strategic leader in the Fintech and payments industry. I specialize in driving business growth, optimizing performance, and implementing scalable solutions with a strong blend of management expertise and technical acumen. Is passionate about leveraging data-driven insights, marketing trends, and strategic partnerships to enhance revenue and customer engagement. Excels in stakeholder engagement, negotiation, and problem solving with a disciplined approach that ensures operational efficiency and sustainable growth. Focused on innovation, he is adept at identifying new opportunities, increasing product adoption, and driving market expansion. That's remarkable. Thank you very much and welcome.
Is it on?
I don't think we're on mute.
Hello, hello.
That's all right.
I'm fascinated to meet that guy you just spoke about. Thank you for having me.
Everybody, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the discussion off with a question posed at Willem Labuschagne. So we're starting off the discussion in terms of the usual flow of collections. We all know the primary source is usually when organizations need to have control. They need to establish surety in terms of what's coming in, trying to manage that as effectively as possible, and that started off as your debit orders. That's usually your pool payments. So there's a real change taking place in the market, as understood from Willem. And what I want to ask Willem is, he's got a slide he wants to share with us with regards to your registered mandates. How will the insurance providers maintain high collection rates while managing increased disputability, the increase in it? So the changes taking place, please assist us just to elaborate a bit around that.
Thank you, Annie. A quick question. How many of you are doing face-to-face sales? Can I just hear a show of hands very quickly? Quite a few people. Most of you. Great. How many of you know that RMS is going to change to RM? And I'm at the right place. Let me share this with you. RMS is going to change to RM. The original date was 10th of March. I just had confirmation 2 minutes ago that it was proposed that it will only going to happen the end of March, and all indications are that it might be postponed to a bit later, but let's work on March, end of March. So just to explain to you again, what's happening at BankServe over a 24-hour period. Very importantly, the credit run takes place at 3 o'clock, plus minus 3 o'clock in the morning. They all know that. Straight thereafter, the debit check run takes place. So if there's money in your client's account, you will get your money. Very important. Remember, debit check can track that account for a period of 10 days. So the success ratio on debit check is excellent. A bit more expensive, but really it's worth your while. Currently, RMS is running at the second window after debit check. That's going to change. I'm going to show you now. It's quite important that we promote, get your client, debit check your client's transaction, and if you can, in his presence. We just launched the debit check TT3 app that costs you 50 Rand a month, where you can actually stand with your client and create a debit check transaction on an app. So your rep has got access, and he does that very easily. So this is what's going to happen. At the end of March, your RMS transaction automatically will start to process from 6 o'clock in the afternoon, early evening to 12 o'clock at night. It's going to automatically start to process during that period. That's on the first tracking day. The second tracking day, it will track that account from 12 o'clock till 2400 hours that night. That's going to happen. It's a fact. Very important to note the following. RM may be initiated without an unsuccessful debit check. You can, on our system, for instance, if the debit check authentication request goes to your client and it doesn't respond to that, or respond on that, it can still fall over to RM. Not RMS anymore, but to RM, and it will collect over that time. A nice feature here is that RM can be initiated against multiple signature accounts. In other words, business accounts where debit check can't. Account can be tracked for 10 days, like I said, and RM mandate can be upgraded to debit check. RM will stay valid if client does not respond to debit check request. So it can be upgraded. And again, and our recommendation is, if you do have access to your client and you are in a face-to-face situation with him, and he has signed a debit order years ago, and you want to convert that debit order to a debit check, do it. Our app allows that. You can retrieve information from our system, identify the client, click on it, and all the information on that original debit order populates to the debit check initiation page. He taps his card, types in his PIN, and Bob's your uncle, that transaction is authenticated. Then you can still put that debit check on a holiday period. In other words, if he keeps on paying his debit order continuously and is with a good success rate, keep it on debit order. It's not as expensive as a debit check. But when it defaults, you can go and fetch that authentication. It's valid for forever, and start collect the following 2 months on debit check. Very importantly, our recommendation is always debit check your client. Any other system that you use right now, if it's a pool payment, it can be disputed. On the dispute rule on 8 o'clock at night, you know, this is what's happening in the industry. If there's the first 40 days, your client has got the right to dispute that transaction with no reason. He can do it in his mobile app. You know that. That rule is going to change to 60 days very soon. We're just waiting for confirmation from the Reserve Bank. It's been approved. The implementation date hasn't decided on. The banks asked us to wait because they still have to roll out RM. So that's very important. The best way to ensure that you're going to get your money is to debit check. There are tools available from all the service providers in order to debit check your transaction. It's undisputable unless you can prove, unless your client can prove fraud, etc. Just I want to interrupt myself just for this. When a client disputes that transaction, that first 40 days, there's nothing that we can do. After that 40th day, the bank will approach us and say, this client wants to dispute a transaction. We say, yes, a signed mandate, and then the bank refers it back to the client and he has to take it up with his service provider. So that's the big change that's going to take place very soon. Make sure you know what's going to happen. And I think that the nice thing about this is that RM can be initiated without the debit check route. All indications are that we are using away from debit orders. There's a reason for that. If you see the information, the artificial intelligence that we get from debit check rails, it's incredible in comparison with the current debit order rail or the old NATO rail. So debit orders is going to run eventually, we don't have the time yet, the next 2 or 3 years, on the debit check rails. I think what's going to happen, the same that happened with data transactions previously, is that when debit check was introduced, the debit check transactions migrated onto the debit check rail. That's what's going to happen with debit orders eventually. So start to do RM. And just a matter of interest and a hint, in order to do that easily, they're going to need a debit order, a telephone number, and an ID number on that mandate. So start to capture your client's telephone number and ID number on all your debit orders, because that is the information that will be required eventually in the next 2 or 3 years when that transaction gets merged onto the RM rail. Thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Willem. So there's a clear alignment that's taking place. If we look at international standards, South Africa, when adopting this to align to international banking standards, offerings, and what do they call this? The modernization of this kind of payment processing. So I just want to open up the floor, and I think there's debit orders taking place between Samantha as well with Netcash. There's a level of that as well. So for the panel, how would insurance providers, in terms of long-term, short-term, and funeral, prepare themselves for this transition? In terms of debit orders being so critical to these business models that we're facing, like we discussed earlier. In terms of the impact, let's talk to the customer education. How would customers be informed, call centers be trained to communicate this change to the clients, to the policyholders, to new clients being sold the policy? Yeah?
Yeah, you can take it. It's fine.
I think what's quite important, if know your product and know the product your service provider's got to offer. When you're on a call center environment and you do a TT1, make sure, and that's training, that's really education, make sure that the call center operator knows exactly how your client can authenticate that transaction. On his app, on the SMS he receives from his bank, and on our platform, we've got all the banks that is debit check compatible, and with all their logos. If you click on there, it gives a list and actually quite nice screens on what type of authentication that bank is compatible with, and explain the process that that client needs to follow in order to authenticate that transaction. What happens at the ATM? Which button he needs to press? So that the call center operator explains that to his client. Ask him how you want to authenticate. On your app, banking a Capitec, so wait a minute, screen opens and says, sir, this is the steps that you need to follow. Or if you do TT1, and remember TT1 is tricky. When you're on the phone with your client and you authenticate that transaction in our system, he's got 120 seconds, your client, to authenticate that transaction. And then many times his reception is bad, etc., etc. And if he, or the second option with TT1 is until 9 o'clock at night. So, but if you leave that client and he has to authenticate that transaction in the hour's time, he doesn't. 80% of debit check transactions are no responsive. Why? Because your client, and remember in business, in your industry especially, you want cash flow. The best way to control your cash flow, if you take that transaction date and control of that, and debit his account on the date that you've indicated. Anything else is a push payment, a credit card payment, etc., etc. He needs to initiate that transaction. So the cash flow control is out of your hand. So my recommendation is, if you TT1s, remember, if he doesn't authenticate that transaction at 9 o'clock, it's going to fall away. Bulk upload TT2, again, he's got 2 days to authenticate that transaction. Once you said goodbye to him on the phone, it's forgotten. He doesn't respond to that. Remember that. And that's a big challenge in the marketplace to get your client to authenticate that transaction. But the long and the short of it is, take control. Dictate when you're going to receive your premium. And use a system and a method where you know it's not disputable. And the possibility to get that premium is almost 100%.
Thank you very much. So that's a very specific answer in terms of the specifics between the different stages of processing or collecting or accessing the service to customers, and then obviously aligning it. I want to just move on to the administration costs, the cost of collaboration between these offerings and the payment provider being able to offer secondary or third payment solutions. So, Samantha, if you could possibly talk to that for me, seeing as you guys have got a very big spectrum available to your customers. What would you say, or what's your opinion around the core behind offering payment options to the diverse market? If we look at the communities, education level, cultural, languages, the moment the debit order misses, there's a next step that needs to start flowing. Where would you say is the core that we need to focus on within that environment?
All right, I think offering multi-channel payment options is very important to our clients to ensure that everyone is comfortable with the payment offerings that you have on your systems. For instance, not everyone wants to put their account number for you to run a debit order for them. So also considering that we have many clients in the rural areas where smartphones are very unpopular. So there are services like your retail payment service, for instance, which allows a client to actually walk into a supermarket or any of the Escort participating outlets like your ShopRite, your post office to make a cash payment. And then also when you get failed debit orders, life happens. A debit order failed maybe because my salary was in the account late. So if you have a payment request feature, for instance, where your client can actually receive a payment request link on their SMS, on their phone, or an email, they can click on that link, which will take them to a payment gateway that has various payment methods. And they can choose one that's comfortable for them. Like they can pay via credit card, you've got your Ozo Instant EFT, and the same retail payments I spoke about, where they just walk into a supermarket and make a cash payment.
Thank you very much. So you ended off between the core, and I think this is applicable to a lot of our the organizations and companies present here today, is that cash market, the alternative. So we're going into the next phase of this. And I want to ask Nkululeka, sorry about that, where and how do we talk to the recurring type of payments that need to take place within these cash markets? And where you guys have specialized in that for 20, 30 years already. So it's a key focus for you. You've driven, you've established. Now, the question is, how do we deal with that market? How do we get them loyal? How do we maintain the trust? You understand? So, yeah, please go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think what we have identified as payment aggregators and providers in that space is the clients that are serviced by ourselves and the insurance companies and the funeral business companies have a channel of choice that they prefer. And we can no longer push that to the side and say, well, we want you to form or buy to this channel. So what our role in the society is to ensure that we know cash is still king, a good part of that is, and we as the aggregators make sure that we build relationships with the retailers, we build relationships with the banks, and we do that in a cost-effective manner in that we don't want to outcost the funeral parlor owner when he wants to use our service, but also then enhancing the products that we offer on there. Tap to Go has been a big move there, and you see the likes of PayShop, and that inclusivity model that they adopt to actually bring cash into a digital space is quite key, and we need to then build channels to absorb that in. So making vouchers available for payments, for example. So the innovation that we bring, we just always need to keep in mind that we are servicing not just people here in the room, but it goes back from LSM 10 all the way to Ukoko in the township who has to pay the 50 Rand, but how do I make it easy for her to do that? Do I provide GeoPoint for payment options with some of the products that we have in our stable? So it's quite a collaborative approach, and we've seen with the change of how we do work, we've realized we cannot be an island, so we need to pull resources from insurance partners, from companies that do debit orders to say, when it fails, what is the second option? The third option is go next door to your spaza shop, you can make payments there, or then go to a retailer, for example. So yeah, that's essentially the ecosystem that we play in, and yeah, we're open for business.
That's it. So what I'm hearing, and this alludes me to thinking about that window period. The moment the strike is defaulted, the debit order didn't happen, there's a shift that needs to take place to a window that's growing window of a policy that's going to lapse very quickly. It's quickly approaching to efficiently, proficiently, whatever you want to call it, use all the partners or role players within this environment. We're talking about the POL 360s, we're talking about the StratCols, the payment providers, the operators, what they engage with. There needs to be some sort of automation to a certain extent that needs to take place, and the innovation behind that, if we look at future-proofing payments. Joshua, I would like you to maybe just comment on where this is heading.
Sure.
If we look at the recurring nature of tokenization, alternative in the digital space, future-proofing for what's to come.
Sure, yeah. So let's take a picture of a year from now. How about that? Maybe 2 years from now. Let's imagine that every agent has their own custom program on a point of sale mechanism. That app, let's call it an app on the point of sale device, is custom to the customer, but isn't custom built by the agents themselves, right? They can use agencies like POL 360 to customize this experience so your customer feels like they have that relationship with you, but it's something you don't have to invest a lot of your own capital in. On this device, you can offer multiple things. You can offer different kinds of policies, you can have other value-add services, but you can also capture different kinds of payment information. So you can do the debit order, you can also do a credit card and tokenize that credit card. You can even offer the opportunity to use one voucher, one of the most popular digital vouchers right now that you can find in sponsor shops. So all these different methods can be available not only on the POS, but then once they've left your physical space, they'll be able to use those same payment methods in an online experience on your website or on a partner's website, and it can all feel like the same experience. And I think that's where we're going to, right? Right now, it sounds fragmented, and in fact, it is a little fragmented. And it's events like these organized by our friends at Pull 360 that are seeing these different trends happening in the space and realizing that if we don't all come together and start talking about all these trends together, it's going to stay fragmented. So I think the vision is close. All these things exist. I think putting them together in something that an agent can use and feel like it's part of their customer experience is that next level we're going to see in the next year to 2 years. Because right now, I think it feels to a lot of people like you got to use multiple devices, you're pointing people to different web pages, and that's just, none of us like that. We don't like that as customers ourselves, and we certainly don't want to have that experience be with the people that are coming in and doing something so important as a funeral policy or some other insurance policy.
That definitely, yeah. That makes me think about the possibility of, I don't want to say a combined, a collaborative approach when it gets to a society that's driven by technology. We've been talking a lot about AI. We've been talking about data, analyzing it. What would the role behind payment providers, or let's say a unified a collaboration between all the players within the system to enable financial inclusion more effectively on the one side, but also allow organizations to thrive, to gain access to new markets, emerging markets like we've been talking about. There's new services. So data at its core. Data is gold. It's the gold of the future. So I want to ask, let's say, Josh, will you open up for us on that topic to a certain extent?
I feel like this is a test. I don't know. It just got hot in here. I don't know. How to best use data to bridge different experiences, right?
Yes.
That's, it's interesting you say that. I am going to take a little bit of a contrarian perspective on this. Not because it's not possible, but when you think of, when I hear that question, actually the first thing that comes to mind is security, PCI compliance. Now you're talking to payments people here, right? So we are entrusted with people's money. And so I absolutely think there's a place for sharing those experiences, having something, that is value-added services, right? That you've captured some payment information, now you can offer other services because it's easy for people to pay for those things, and they need them. The other side of that coin is how do you keep that as a secure environment and keep that trust with someone? And that is, I think that's always evolving because the fraudsters are always evolving with us. I don't know if everyone knows that PCI compliance is having a major update. This is the payment card industry standards. They're having a major update this year, so it actually puts more of the burden on payment security compliance on the actual merchant themselves. And so how companies like Peach Payments or anyone else up here helps you as merchants, you as agents, build that trust, but still do the sharing that you're talking about is, I think, still evolving, I gotta say. I don't think there's a simple answer to say, oh, this is the plug and play way to everybody has to do it. I don't know how everybody else feels. I'm done, I promise.
Yeah, just a recent experience that we've gone through was we sit with, in our business, we service quite an extensive array of customers, and we've seen funeral administrated insurance companies where a bill needs to be recovered or paid, and there's an issue where it's $500 and someone goes and he pays 200 Rand. There's the partial payment, the short payment, and it has an impact on the policy, obviously. But through collaboration and sitting down with some of the integrating partners to say, that data sits behind Henny owes you X amount. How do we create communication between yours and our systems, obviously observing POPI and all the regulations around there. But making it easy for the client, because I think the customer at the end of the day doesn't care how we do it, they just want to pay. So the job relies on us, or sits on us, to say, how do we make it look good in the front, and in the back we run around and we do all the work. And obviously adopting technology while we do that.
Yes, yes, and I want to add to that, if you consider the ways of paying, when we look at alternative payments, tender types. You mentioned initially cash is king. I've seen that, I've witnessed that, I've seen when effective, efficient sales strategies are implemented or endorsed as a value, as a culture within organizations, you can retain customers to a great extent by tweaking the options that they tend to use. And when I say tender type, you can see people going into a retailer, for instance, paying with a credit card for their policy, paying with a debit card for their policy. So clearly, there's money in the bank. So there's a sense of data over there, right? There's a scope. And then we see people accessing Capitec Pay. We saw that to flame in the market. The moment they opened up, it was like a wildfire. They addressed a real need. They saw a solution in a challenge. So the question that I've got is, how can payment providers, system operators within the payment space, assist their clients to effectively present or communicate or request a payment to be made with a focus on reducing the cost of collection for the organization that we're collecting on behalf? I want to just pose it to Samantha, please. Yeah.
Sorry, my apologies.
I think for reducing payments in the funeral services industry, I would say automation, efficiency, and strategic processing is key. So you can automate your debit orders, for instance, where as opposed to manually tracking, you have an automated debit order system that does all the collections for you on a monthly basis. What this reduces is also your errors, or imagine a person manually following up on your clients for payment every month, or a client didn't make payment. So your administrative costs are also reduced that way because a system is automating the collections. And then you can also set up email reminders or SMS reminders to your clients so that they know that they have a debit order that's going to run, on a certain day to ensure that it's catered for. Also, what people don't know is batch processing reduces your costs a great deal. It's different to when you process lower volumes. Let's say, for instance, you're processing 1,000 volumes. Service providers out there, they offer a tiered pricing structure where it's cheaper for you to process 1,000 debit orders than it is to process 100 debit orders. So try and enforce debit order collections on your clients at the get-go so that they know that for us to pay this policy, we can either use a debit order and then you're pushing the volumes. Also, contrary to what we say, yeah, debit check, way to go, we will collect. If you actually look at your reports, you've got the good clients that pay on a monthly basis. Why debit check everyone? You actually can debit check mandate everyone so that everyone thinks that the collection is via debit check. But then for the good clients where you've never had failed debit orders, do an actual debit order, EFT debit order. It's cheaper than running a debit check transaction. You can even do the RM, which is basically just NATO that's returned with tracking. But then this is all based on the reports that you pull. You've got good clients, and then the problem children, yeah, do the debit check and pay, but it's all about reducing costs at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Willem,
I want to support 100% you say. It's so true. Debit orders are much less expensive than a debit check transaction. The good news with RM, it's about, if I remember, about 50% the cost of a debit check transaction. What we're saying is, authenticate your transaction with your client. In other words, debit check compatible. You can debit check if you want to. Keep on collecting on debit order because it's much cheaper. It makes a lot of sense. When it defaults, you can put your debit check on a payment holiday, it lies there. And it defaults, you can fetch the debit check and you debit his account on that day and move it back to debit order again. And just on data, and I think that's the biggest mistake clients are making. They've got all this information from their service providers, regardless who you're using. That information is available, especially in the tracking. If you track for 5 days and you see that this particular client, because the information is available on when the debit was successful. You've tracked for 2 days and it's every month successful on the day 3. Move your dates and save some money on the tracking days and debit that account on that specific day and track maybe for 2 days or not at all. Depending, and then another thing that clients should be educated on, when you sign agreement with your client, and debit orders specifically, attach his payment slip to his proposal. So you can see when his salary gets paid into his account. EFT his account on that same day, if you're on an EFT, or debit check his account on that same day, that's the best way of getting success. But the point I'm making is, and I support what you're saying, is that analyze what you've got. Analyze the success ratio of your client. Use that information to use some other payment methods if you do have the access there too. But the bouquet is vast. Know your client. There's no sense if you're selling a funeral policy in the rural area for that client to snap, scan, or zapper with all due respect. It's not, he doesn't know that. He only understands debit orders, or he might understand a Capitec Pay. That's the things that he understands. Make that available, and we all has got that to offer. And make it available. Give your client a method of paying that you know that he understands and that he's comfortable with.
And also just remember that cash handling and bank deposits do come with hidden costs that we don't know. We just see it on our bank statement as bank fees, but we don't know what it is. What are we paying? How much are we paying for what? So digital payment options are always cheaper than, the ordinary and bank deposits.
Correct. And I want to add on to that, or I'll move on from that. If we look at the industry within South Africa, the introduction of PayShop, real-time payments, peer-to-peer payments. So all of this is also opening up a proliferation of complexity within the market. Consumers expect something that's understandable, simple, efficient user experience. I don't want to click 50 times or be redirected. Sorry, this is not working, your bank's not available. So I think my question is, when future-proofing, when we're looking ahead, how would this long list of payment options, we're looking at pool payments, debit orders, tokenizing payments and recurring them. You can strike when you want, money will move. We get people that's trained, educated based on their a culture to go into retailers every month with a plastic card to make a payment. So it's ever evolving, and then we're moving into the mobile space. MVNOs, mobile money, mobile wallets. Each retailer wants their wallet. We look at ShopRite X, Pick and Pay Money, Pep Money. All the retailers with access to these markets are gaining quite a bit of momentum. So I think what my question is, when we're looking ahead, are we actually complicating the lives of the people on the ground? This is us as well. This is me making a payment online for something. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? Or on the phone, a call center agent talking to a new policyholder, and you want them to pay immediately to retain them. You've got that client, it's a sale. It's not a possible debit order that's going to go through. They're already a client. You've got cover, you've got money in the bank. So we're evolving into a different space. I want to just open up, this is basically the last portion of the discussion. How do we look at the next step, the view forward? So considering who's going to own the market 5 years from now, is it going to be the banks? Is it going to be the retail banks, the retailers with their wallets? Is it going to be MVNOs with their offerings? A general suggestions. I want opinions.
Sorry.
I would say
please go ahead.
There will always be space for debit orders, especially in the funeral services industry. It's one of the grudge buys. I don't want to have to do something on a monthly basis to pay for my funeral policy. It's reminding me what I'm paying for. So if a debit order is just going to run, I think, which is a lot of people as well, it's something that I don't have to think of. It's just happening in the background. Whereas if I had to pay shop a payment or make an instant payment now, I am thinking of what I'm paying for, just being human. So I think there will always be space for the automated collections in the background as well.
With alternatives.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think you mentioned earlier the amount of data that we sit with and our approach and how we use it. You'll know if you call someone and ask them to pay quickly, if they're not going to do that, you now know there's a pocket of clients who prefer to then still adopt the cash or still go to a safe space. There are those who can do it and say, look, debit order is fine. So I think we sit with enough data to say, let's market to where our strengths are, collect where we can, and then, look, there will be some that fall through the cracks. And who knows, maybe there's another channel to accommodate those payments.
Yeah.
Joshua, embedded finance.
Yeah. So, embedded finance. So there's that saying that every company is a financial technology company today. And that was your point around, grocery stores are offering credit. Retail locations offering credit. Everyone's offering credit. Everyone wants you to use their proprietary system, which actually isn't proprietary. It's another company managing it on behalf of the Woolies or the Pick and Pay. And that's true. I think to answer your question, I think it's going to continue to fragment before it actually consolidates. I think PayShap's a perfect example. I think Capitec Pay is another example. So in my view, over the next couple of years, people are going to become more brand loyal. Right? They're going to see Capitec, and they're going to be like, okay, whatever that is, I can do that one, right? Because I know Capitec, I have a relationship with Capitec. FNB, whether it's, imagine geo payments at an actual till, right? If they wanted to really start interoperability, right, in a new way. Well, you do it because you trust FNB, I think. So I think that's where we're going right today. Now, throw in PayShap and what cost PayShap might be in the future, that could be a game changer, right? Right now, the banks are implementing PayShap, right, this new national payment system. They also manage EFTs. So to what degree are they going to compete with EFTs if that's a really great business for them? So I think we're going to need to see maybe some new incentives in the market that will encourage more consolidation, because right now, I think the incentives are to stay fragmented and to encourage people to become more brand loyal to whatever they're currently using, and maybe throw in a digital voucher here and there, right? Maybe use one voucher when something's not going right and I just need to pay 100 Rand and make sure this month is okay for my funeral policy.
Yeah.
100, I agree 100%. So my perspective, opinion on that is, from an industry perspective, money is starting to move globally, instantly. We look at SWIFT, Namibia, all these interesting things. What's happening in the background? I've got an opinion where consumers, if we look at Kenya, M-Pesa, money moving instantly, people paying with cell phones, it's wallets. There's no form of banking. You're not going into banks, those kind of things. But it's also instant banking with USSD, so it's simplified, addressing a huge market, maybe the biggest market at the moment, evolving, emerging. So what I'm thinking is the real cost behind processing, due to the fact that there's so many stakeholders, and stuff, or real-time payments, RTP, those kind of things, pay shops, will soon be opening borders as well, sending money back home for a person to pay their policy in Zimbabwe, making it efficient, making it cost-effective. What about insurance cross-border, repatriation, local insurance covering international customers in other countries? So it opens up opportunity for value to move. And I think the core principle, the core focus of this community, the payments community, these providers, is to help drive inclusivity, not just for the customers and the markets, but also to enable new markets to access services in their preferred way of paying. A trust, you mentioned trust. There's also a lot of, I lost my chain of thing.
I just can't believe we've sat up here talking about payments and we haven't talked about buy now, pay later methodologies, right? Which I only say it because it just goes to show you how many diverse payment options there are, and we could have a whole conversation up here and never even mention buy now, pay later, which is the fastest growing payment category, right, in South Africa. Or crypto. So options are bound, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that goes back into your blockchain. You know, those kind of things. Being able to also reduce cost, value to move instantly. In terms of, if we consider BPNL in terms of where, how can I put this? You buying a TV with an added insurance to it. You know, so you can access that. But what would happen from a payments expert opinion with the TV's money that's being paid online, and there's a little portion of insurance as part of that payment that's being accepted. So I want to, there's a regulatory thing that, a concept, I'd say, within short term that needs to be addressed there. Do we have an opinion?
That's a great, I have no idea how that would be handled.
Yeah. So I think do we have an opinion maybe from the audience? Somebody that's got something, 2 minutes.
Anybody know how that payment would be handled? That is a great question. Because I think there are a lot of people selling TVs who would love to know, could I tack on, right? I mean, that's the question. Could I tack on a funeral policy to that? And then how are the premiums paid if it's all done through PayFlex, for example?
Or even, if you have to consider the market that we're addressing here, is a person going into a PEP store, buying a DSTV decoder, and adding a decoder insurance. Maybe MultiChoice is adding life cover.
I can say this. Right now, buy now, pay laters generally don't deal with insurance policies as an industry. So,
but it could be part of it.
But it could not be considered. And it's a great question. That's why I'm doing mental gymnastics right now to even think through the systems. Yeah, but as a policy for buy now, pay laters, they generally don't do insurance policies.
So in general, I think I want to leave that as a point of innovation, something to consider for the future. There's a lot of entrepreneurs here. We want to do sales, maybe combine products. But yeah, I definitely believe there's scope. There's scope for understanding, for exploration, and opportunity within those challenges. Okay. Any questions we didn't address? I'm all happy. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Sure. So a lot to take in there. Of course, one note there talking about debit orders and how debit orders remind you of what you're paying for, which inevitably, I think, in this particular setting just reminds you that you're going to die every time you pay those things. So I prefer not to see my debit orders. But I do say I feel inspired by what I just saw. I'm about to find out more about DebiCheck. I want everyone in my life to be DebiChecked. Everyone that gives me money must. DebiCheck is the way forward. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are moving now on to regulatory insights. This next keynote is brought to us by Masthead. Our next speaker is proof that reading the fine print can actually be exciting, maybe just for them. Here to discuss key trends influencing FCSA licensing guidance, compliance for brokers, and leveraging the informal funeral market. An experienced in category 1, 2, and 5 compliance officer with over 13 years of industry experience. Versed in compliance, ladies and gentlemen, please make some noise for Kevin Erasmus.
Thank you very much. I know I'm standing in the way of lunch. Compliance is exciting to me, so I've timed myself. I've got a little timer on my watch that will start buzzing when we reach about 1:30. So firstly, I'd just like to say thank you to the organizers for allowing me to speak to you today. It's really a privilege, and I think the event, everything looks great. The funeral industry plays or holds a vital place in South African society as a pillar of cultural and financial security for millions of South Africans. The work you provide essentially provides millions of South Africans with certainty, dignity, and support. But with great responsibility, unfortunately, comes compliance. And today we've been speaking a lot about the greatest risk to the industry of being your competitors. I've got news for you. Unfortunately, compliance is also quite a big risk, or at least the risk of non-compliance. So today I'm going to be talking about some key regulatory aspects. I'm going to talk about the FSCA licensing requirements. I'm going to touch on it very high level because we generally get this question. I want to touch on some regulatory actions, i.e. what happens if you are not compliant? What are the consequences? And then I'm going to talk about some ongoing compliance requirements and what you can do to essentially use compliance to elevate your business and sort of stand out amongst your competitors. Right. So very important. Is it working? Where must I point? There we go. Okay. So regulatory actions. Now, I want to focus on the regulatory actions report for the period of 1 April 2023 until the 31st of March 2024. Now, the FSCA is tightening enforcement on unregistered business or unregistered insurance business or unlicensed FSP business, if you will. Now, during the reporting period, there were 67 cases that were investigated, and out of the 25 completed cases, 12 funeral parlors or funeral services providers were found to be non-compliant and either had to apply for an FSP license or become a juristic representative on another license and essentially ensure that their clients are underwritten or were underwritten by a licensed insurer. Now, unfortunately, there are still thousands of funeral parlors and funeral services providers, if you will, in the industry that don't really understand or know what they need to do to be compliant. And I just want to break some barriers here to show you that it's not that difficult. If you want to apply for your own FSP license, it's really not that difficult. We can help you with that. Now, unfortunately, I've got a very real example, and I see the last point is a little bit light. I've got a very real example of the consequences of non-compliance. So, essentially, it was a funeral service provider that was contravening Section 7, subsection 1 of the FASE Act. In other words, they were rendering a financial service without being authorized, without having an FSP license. And they were also contravening Section 5, subsection 1 of the Insurance Act. In other words, they were operating as an insurer without prudential authority authorization. Now, this company essentially was fined 4.4 million rand, and both directors were debarred. One director was debarred for 10 years, a period of 10 years, and the other was debarred for a period of 5 years. Now, what is very interesting is if you look at how they came to the penalty. So essentially, over a period, I think it is from 2021 until 2023, this funeral service provider was essentially collecting premiums without being authorized to do so. So they based the penalty that they imposed on the premiums that they collected illegally. So that was where the 4.4 million rand came from. 3,000 clients were impacted, and unfortunately, the investigations were initiated by client complaints. Now, the reason why I'm showing this to you today is because I don't want any of you to be in the headlines for non-compliance. I mean, if you think about it, number one, besides the fact that you're going to close your doors, it's a reputational risk, it's an operational risk, it's just not a risk that you want to have. So what are the changes coming? Now, earlier today, and I think our first fireside discussion, our first panel discussion, they touched on the fact that the FSCA and the Prudential Authority are collaborating to reform the regulations in the funeral space. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here because we already spoke about standard insurance versus microinsurance. We spoke about the barriers to entry, the high capital requirements, etc. But at least those were challenges identified by funeral parlors. The challenges identified by the regulators was the fact that there are still thousands of funeral parlors that are operating without appropriate authorization. So we spoke also about, or at least not me, I'm saying we spoke as if I spoke all day, but we touched on some of the areas of consumer empowerment, education. We touched on the fact that the regulators are providing compliance assistance to the industry. And what I want to encourage you to do is, because the regulators are going to be holding or hosting workshops in the first half of 2025 for any insurer, underwriter, financial service provider, anyone with a material interest, you can get involved. You can actually address some of the challenges you've been facing. So Masthead is actually going to be involved with these discussions. We've already raised our hand, and I received confirmation on, I think, Monday or Tuesday or at least acknowledgement of the fact that we're going to be involved. So I want to ask you, if you are interested, if there are concerns that you have, or you want to be involved in the discussions at least, come and chat to us. I'd like to hear your point of view. I'd like to hear what your issues are in the industry, because we are the voice of the IFA at the end of the day. If you want to get involved on your own, again, please come and chat to us at the booth, and I can at least show you how to do that. Right, so key risks. So we spoke about key risks earlier. So from my perspective, the key risks for you currently, or at least for a funeral service provider that's not licensed, you need to get a license. You either need to apply for an FSP license, if you're not, or you need to become a juristic representative on another FSP license. You need to make sure that your clients are underwritten by a licensed insurer, and you cannot collect premiums without authorization to do so. So what are the next steps? The next steps, as you may know, apply for a license. Now today, like I mentioned, I'm going to address some of those questions, because when we say apply for a license, we generally get the answer, but okay, how? What do I need to be able to apply for a license? What are the requirements? So I want to touch very high level on the fitness and propriety of a key individual. In other words, what you need as an individual to become a key individual of an FSP. And I also want to touch on operational ability requirements. So general operational ability requirements, and then governance sort of requirements, if you will. Right. So first things first is, if you are a key individual, or you want to become a key individual of your FSP, there are certain things that you need to comply with, right? So today we're going to touch on honesty, integrity, and good standing. We're going to look at financial soundness. We're going to look at competence, and then, of course, operational ability. And I will explain operational ability a little bit later, and we can't confuse it between the FSP's operational ability and the KI's operational ability. So if we touch on honesty, integrity, and good standing, again, generally we get the question, okay, but what does that mean? What does it mean? I don't really understand. What do I need to do or comply with? Now, I've got some discretionary definitions, if you will, on the screen. So what does honesty mean? Honesty means to be truthful and free of deceit. What does integrity mean? Integrity means possessing the quality of being honest and to have strong moral principles. What does good standing mean? Good standing means to be on good terms with someone or something by meeting all of your obligations. Now the board notice, and when I talk about the board notice, I'm talking about your fit and proper requirements. So board notice 194 of 2017 does not define the concept of honesty, integrity, and good standing. However, good standing can be seen as the application of the requirements of honesty and integrity. The board notice does, however, provide for incidents indicating when someone is not honest or lacks honesty and integrity and good standing. So in other words, if you're unsure, where do I actually stand, you can go and look at those incidents indicating when perhaps you might not comply with the fit and proper requirements. However, that all is then measured against a few factors. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it there. Actually quite simple to look at. But essentially, you need to be fit and proper to be able to be a key individual, be a representative, but I think most of you know that. Next is the operational ability of a key individual. So what do I mean when I say operational ability of a key individual? A key individual must have the operational ability to manage and oversee the financial services related activities of the FSP or juristic representatives, if you have any juristic representatives, as well as the financial services related to the financial product that they are seeking authorization for. So in other words, you need to be able to manage and oversee the activities of the FSP. If you can't do that, you can't be a key individual. Same goes to where you're a key individual on more than one license, which you can be. Essentially, what you'd need to do is you need to demonstrate that you actually have the operational ability to manage and oversee all of these FSPs. The operational ability of a KI needs to be measured on a regular basis as well. So the FSP needs to make sure that their KI, or key individual, has the operational ability to actually do what they're supposed to do. Okay. Next, we have competence, right? And we get the question a lot as well. But what does it mean to be competent? I mean, if we don't go and look at the legislation, it could mean anything. But essentially it means you have to have the skills, knowledge, and expertise to do your job. Straightforward. You need to comply with the competence requirements in terms of the board notice, so fit and proper requirements, and you need to maintain your competence. Okay, so now I want to quickly touch on some of the competence requirements. And for today, I want to use an FSP that wants to, or at least a key individual, an individual that wants to apply for a license, but only for long-term insurance subcategory A and friendly society benefits. And this is where most of the people, at least from my perspective, are working in. So this is a tier 2 product, and it falls under the funeral clause in the Insurance Act. Okay. If you're only applying for long-term insurance subcategory A or friendly society benefits, a lot of the competence requirements do not necessarily apply to you. If you're applying for a tier 1 product, so that will be your long-term insurance, for example, long-term insurance B1, B2, then all of the competence requirements essentially would be applicable. So first things first, experience, right? What does it mean? So first things first, you have to work under supervision. When you start in the industry, you add it to a rep register, you need to work under supervision, your supervision needs to be signed off. We see more often than not that someone comes to us and says, you know, but I've been working in this industry for 10 years, but they've never been added to a rep register, they've never been added to a license. For long-term insurance subcategory A and friendly society benefits, you're looking at 6 months for advice and 2 months for intermediary services. And if your supervisor, which could also be your key individual, is happy with your experience, they can sign off your supervision. If you want to be a key individual, you need to have at least 1 year, and a Cat 1 FSP, 1 year's management and oversight experience in that product category. Okay, very important. How are we going to prove that? When we submit the application to the regulator, essentially we need reference letters. You need a reference letter saying, you know what, I confirm that this person has the management and oversight experience in XYZ. So we need to be able to prove it. You're going to send your CV, your Cat 1, Subcat A and what's the name? Friendly society benefits qualifications not necessary, but if it's B1, B2, for example. Next up is qualification. So generally speaking, you need to comply with the qualification requirements. So you have to have an approved qualification or a recognized qualification that's approved by the FSCA. Again, if you're only looking at Subcat A and friendly society benefits, it's not required for you. If you're looking at a tier 1 product, you'd have to essentially have a full qualification. Regulatory examinations, RE1, RE5. Generally speaking, reps need to complete RE5, key individuals RE1, but again, if you're applying for Subcat A and friendly society benefits, it doesn't apply to you, right? Class of business training. Class of business training is also a requirement. So generally speaking, when you start under supervision, you have 1 year to complete your class of business training in that particular class of business, for example, long-term insurance. Subcat A, friendly society benefits, not applicable. CPD, continuous professional development, not applicable to Subcat A and friendly society benefits. Product-specific training, however, so here's one that is actually applicable. Product-specific training is, however, necessary. And I've added product-specific training here and CPD here. This is not necessarily something that we're going to submit to the regulator when you're applying, but once your license is approved, you need to make sure that you conduct or at least complete product-specific training before you sell or market any product for all reps and KIs that are marketing. So why am I showing you this today? I just want to break that barrier. There are lower competence requirements for many that want to actually enter this industry, many that want to apply for their own licenses. And I want to encourage anyone who is unsure or is considering applying for a license just to come chat to us, because we really are here to help you. But I also want to mention one thing. So we've got a booth upstairs. Whether you are an FSP, whether you are a juristic representative, or whether you're not licensed at all, come and chat to us if you have any compliance questions. Okay. Next up is operational ability. So what does that mean? So if you want to apply for an FSP license, if you want to have your own FSP, you need to comply with the operational ability requirements. So first things first is your general operational ability requirements. You need to have a fixed business address, access to adequate storing, computer, telephone, etc. You need to have a bank account. So these are your very basic operational ability requirements. So if you don't have a fixed business premises, you don't have a bank account, you need to make sure that you get that. But then we go a little bit further. We go to our governance framework. And this is where people's eyes get so big. What does this mean? If you want to operate an FSP, and I mean, we have some of our clients are sitting here today, you know that you need to have certain policies and procedures and processes in place to make sure that you're compliant with regulation. And it's not only to be compliant, but it's also to protect your customers. It's to elevate your business to the next level. For example, risk management plan. People will ask me, okay, but I don't really know how to start, or I don't know how to create a risk management plan. What do I need to do? Essentially what this is, you just need to ask yourself, okay, what are the risks to my business? You need to understand what are the risks to your business. Fraud risk, for example, is a risk. Competitor risk is a risk. What controls do I have in place to manage and mitigate those risks? If I don't have any controls in place, what am I going to do about it? Who's going to do it? By when? So essentially, you need to actively manage your risks. And more often than not, when you look at your risks, when you actually go and think about it, you actually find opportunities within your risk management. Okay. Another example is an RMCP, a Risk Management and Compliance Program. So anyone who is at Masthead is probably not very happy to hear that word because I think it's a nightmare for most. But you need to comply with FICA. We get this a lot, but I only do funeral business. I don't need to comply with FICA, which is completely incorrect. You need to implement a risk management and compliance process, or program at least, that is compliant with FICA. You need to register as an accountable institution once your license has approved. You need to report to the regulator where you see suspicious activity or whatever the case may be. It's something that you need to have implemented. Last example I want to give you is a complaints process, for example, a complaints management framework. You need to have an adequate complaints management framework. You need to be able to support your clients when they do complain. You need to categorize those complaints, for example, and resolve those complaints. Unfortunately, in the industry, there are still too many clients that are being negatively impacted by post-sale barriers, by unlicensed and unregistered businesses, if you will. Now, for a license application, you don't necessarily have to have all of that in place just yet. I've just put it there to scare you a little bit, not really. I've just put it there so that you can just see sort of what, get a feeling for what I need to do. Very high level. For a license application, you need to have a risk management policy, yes. You need to have an RMCP. You need to have a business continuity plan. But this is something that we do every day. We can help you with that if it's something that's interesting for you. Okay. I know we're already at 12:30. I've got 2 minutes left on my timer. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about outsourcing functions. This is where you're outsourcing like a regulated function, for example. Financial soundness, again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you need to be financially sound. I think that goes without saying. And then I spoke about the key individual operational ability. Right. So just quickly, we also get the question, okay, but once my license has been issued, what then? What do I need to do? So on the screen, I've got a few very important things that you need to consider. So first things first, financial soundness. As I mentioned, you need to maintain your financial soundness. You need to submit your annual financial statements when it's due every year to the regulator. If you're collecting premiums, you need to make sure that you're submitting your liquidity calculation declaration, your Annexure 6. You need to make sure that within 6 weeks you've got professional indemnity cover. You need to make sure that you pay your phase and ombud levies every year when they do, right? And then I've got compliance, risk management, and data and reporting. Data and reporting I put there, I don't know what to put there because there's a lot that I want to talk about. But essentially, you need to make sure that you're reporting to the regulator where there's a change, where there's a profile change in your FSP. Let's say, for example, one of your representatives resign. You need to do that within 15 days. And I'm talking about data there as well, and I'm not even touching on Omni CBR because that's something that's coming in next year, and there's not enough time for me to touch on it. But you're going to have to report to the regulator on a quarterly basis. And it's going to be very data heavy, and the regulator wants to use that as an off-site monitoring tool. So what data do you have available? What management information do you have available? And when I talk about that, I'm talking about complaints data, claims data, cancellations. What are the outliers? Why are people canceling? Why are people complaining? What's the problem? That's what they want to see. They want to see that you're treating customers fairly, that you can demonstrate that you're treating customers fairly. It's not like in the past where we had a TCF policy. Say, okay, here's my policy. You see, I'm treating customers fairly. You're going to have to be able to demonstrate that. All right. And then I'm talking about compliance and risk management. And what did I put it here? It's ongoing compliance. maintenance of your compliance documents, if that's not the best word to use, but maintenance of your processes, risk management, extremely important. I understand that as a broker or as a financial advisor, you don't go to work to comply with legislation. I do. To me, I find it very fun. People think I'm mad. You go to work to do business, right? But in order to do business, you need to comply. Because if you don't comply, you're not going to wake up in the morning and go to business because it's not going to be there anymore. You might be in prison for that sake, you know. So essentially, what I'm trying to say is compliance has its benefits. It is a grudge for most. I understand that. It isn't sometimes a bit of an administrative burden. But compliance can set you apart from your competitors. There are thousands of unlicensed players in the industry. Set yourself apart from them. Prove to clients that you are an ethical business. You take compliance seriously. You've got a commitment to protecting your customers. And compliance will help you to do that. It's not just something, you're not just going to create your compliance document, put it in your compliance file and forget about it. It's something that you actively need to use to change your business for the better, right? So you see, I've got a whole bunch of benefits here why compliance is great. So I need to try and motivate why, because generally speaking, people don't want to hear about compliance, but it really can elevate your business to the next level. It really does set you apart. Now, I know that I'm technically over time. If you have any questions, I'm going to ask you to come and chat to us at the booth. I can give you my business card. If perhaps you'd rather have like a one-on-one meeting, we have some compliance questions that you don't want to ask at the booth, you can come and chat to us. We can exchange our details and we can have those sessions to discuss that a little bit further. Right. And then last slide, I just want to show you exactly what we can help you guys with. So Masthead can help you with your compliance, practice management to get all of these policies and procedures in place. We've got a learning center with a lot of CPD hours, very interesting webinars that you can attend. I see someone smiling, so I just had to check if I've got something funny on my slide, but it looks good. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to come and chat to us. Thanks. Thanks, Cheers, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Erasmus, thank you very much. Now, of course, it's great to get some insight in there. I mean, I have very low aspirations of becoming a key individual, but I got confused when you said a key individual needs to be fit. I was like, oh, there goes that dream. Hey. I'm glad you've broken it down, and I think it's fairly simple, guys. There's no need to motivate compliance. It's compliance or jail. That seems to be the simple layout of it. On that note, though, they say the best policy is a paid-up one, and the best conference is one that keeps on time. So on that note, we're going to head out for a bit of lunch. We've got about 30 minutes allocated for a lunch break. It is upstairs in the exhibition center, so you can enjoy some refreshments and use the time to network, collaborate, visit our exhibitors, and of course, don't forget about the competition, because when we come back, I think we're going to do the draw for that 15,000 Rand e-com marketing competition. So on that note, go and have lunch, and we'll see you when we get back. Ladies and gents, we did talk about a competition that we would be holding, and of course that is our prize that is sponsored by Ecom. And this is to win a 15,000 Rand marketing campaign, as we say, sponsored by Ecom, and that consists of an online audit, see what's happening with your business online, and then implement discussions around the implementation of a detailed marketing strategy. So that sounds like something that anyone who wants to grow their business, which of course is you, because you're here, you're listening, you're learning, this could come in handy. And to help us with that, I believe it's Calvin. Are we asking Calvin to come up from Ecom? No? Hey, there we go. Welcome, welcome. Yep. So have you got a strategy for this now? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully you got your brown envelope to the Ecom stand. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I believe we're just drawing one business card. Sure, one to rule them all. No pressure. Okay. Payroll collections. Rudolph Smith. Okay, cool. Well, we'll do one of these handshake. Oh, well, there's three of us. Too many hands to shake. Amazing.
Away with this, eh?
Yeah. We'll keep your card. Thank you, and a big thank you to Ecom for making that possible for us. And the cards. Cards, they're gone. Yeah. Everybody got their car experience, right? Those of you guys? You got the defensive driving course. I did give that to you. Yeah, okay. Oh, the cars! Sorry, cars is a very open-ended statement, and so I got lost there. Yes, some of you guys could use that driving thing because you've parked in the wrong place. So nobody panic. We have a QX70, number plate NZ16662. Sounds like trouble already. NZ16662, if that's you, you are parked in a no-no place. And then we also have a duo, a Volvo and a Mercedes side by side. The Volvo JK01NZ, you are parked in a bad place. And a Mercedes, I think this is a C200. Could have been a 250 next time. And that is also parked in the wrong place. That is JF68XL. Okay, so nobody here. So if you drive a Mercedes, a Volvo, or I think this is an Urus or some kind, QX70S. If that's one of you, then please move your vehicle. There is plenty of parking space around, so there shouldn't be any shortage of that. All right, so as we say, we're coming back from lunch. Everyone have a good lunch? Yes. Got to walk that thin line between getting satiated but still fitting in a button-up shirt. I've always had that problem. It's just one little nice thing to eat. All right, now we're going to be moving on to a panel discussion. Our panelists and speakers are all there ready to get going. We're going to be talking about KYC, Sassa fraud, fraudulent claims, fraudulent policies, and falsifying IDs in the funeral industry. And I know everybody, it's been brought up a couple of times today, trying not to make any losses when we know people are doing skellum things out there. But as South Africans, we must also identify that sometimes we are skellum inside. And the first skellum is when you're in grade 2 and the teacher leaves the classroom and she says, write down anyone's name who makes a noise. And your best friend made a noise and you didn't write the name down. That's the first time of corruption. From there, it's escalating to 10 rands because your windshield is chipped and because you've got smooth tires. So let's all learn together and see how we can avoid that costing us any money. Let's have a look-see here. So our first speaker, or should I say our host here, currently serves as a cost-volume-profit analysis at Cornerstone, an Assupol division, where he drives impactful results through strategic financial planning. Ladies and gentlemen, please make some noise for William Sabelebele. And William will be joined on stage by Henny Vermark, the independent consultant, Rudolph Smith from Q-Link, and Kevin Erasmus from Masthead. Because he wasn't done talking earlier, he's come to tell you more. Thanks, gents.
Good luck. Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is William Mahlatsi Sebelebele, and I'm a storyteller. And today I'm not alone. I'm with these three gentlemen, Kevin, Henny, and Rudolph. But as a storyteller, I need to tell you a story, right? So beside these three gentlemen, I came with somebody. Marin, can you please come and join me on stage? Marlene, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
I'm fine. I want to tell you a story, right? While I was preparing for this session, I went and found out what is insurance, actually what happened for insurance to happen. Then the answer was, let me tell you about a story of who were the insurance people. And the gentleman says, those were the real fishers. The guys with ponytail, greasy hair, and they had swaggers. Then I realized that it's very fit for me to come up with a very bright color, and then I met you. And how did you feel when you saw me having same colors with you?
You look very smart, and it was an honor to meet you, sir.
Ma'am, you look gorgeous too. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, my role is just to facilitate from the expert to the audience so that we can have conversations. But there's a saying in my language, they say, therefore the dogs have been tied, and Stephen said, let's have a party. Stephen, you made a mistake because of then you said I must be free. And during lunch, instead of having fruit and coffee, I had a glass of nip. I drink clap drift and Coke. Ladies and gentlemen, before I go into asking these gentlemen questions, I probably want to ask you questions of saying, why do people do fraud? Why somebody wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to do fraud? And then the other question will say, what is fraud? Right? And then the last one will be, what is an impact of fraud? Is there anyone who can tell me why do people end up resorting to fraud?
Firstly, thank you for having me and the QLink team. A big passion of mine, as you'll hear in the panel discussion, is understanding the needs of the sales agents and enabling them to sell in an ever-evolving market with regards to regulation. So we'll unpack that a little bit later.
My name is Henny Vermaak. I'm a data specialist. I love doing integrations with systems, and I'm in technology, so my passion is driving technology, achieving efficiency, and improving and reducing OpEx in companies.
Thank you so much, gentle brothers. I think instead of asking this question, I'll be lenient. I'll rather stand here or be part of the audience and then try to ask these questions. And then this helps in terms of trying to engage them and so that they can ask. So I have a question for you, Kevin. The question says, what are the legal and compliance requirements for knowing your client in the funeral insurance industry?
All right. Sorry, it's just a bit difficult to hear. It's a bit of an echo. So when we look at KYC in the funeral industry, or at least client due diligence, if you can remember, it was just before lunch, I don't know if you can remember, but I mentioned that even if you are doing funeral business, you need to comply with the FIC. You're an accountable institution. So it means you need to develop a risk management and compliance program to prevent or to combat money laundering, terrorist financing, and proliferation financing. Very important to note is that you need to identify and verify your clients. You need to screen your clients against the targeted financial sanctions list. You need to screen them against DPEPs and FPEPs. I'm talking about domestic politically exposed persons, foreign politically exposed persons, politically influential persons, for example. But what is very important to take into consideration is that this is not a one-size-fits-all. You need to take a risk-based approach. So you need to understand the risk to your business, the risk that with regards to the clients, the client base that you have, the products that you're selling, where you're situated. You need to conduct a business risk assessment to determine those risks. So essentially, you need to have processes in place to identify and verify your clients and essentially due diligence on all of your clients.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I think people like me, you could see the colors. If somebody comes and sells for you without having compliance officers, can you hear me?
I'm battling to you, I'm sorry.
Okay, so if somebody like me come and sell you a policy without having compliance officers, so policing people who are going to police, imagine what the industry will be, right? So thank you so much for your role.
I can touch on that maybe. So yes. I just want to make it very clear that we at Masthead, we're not police officers. We're not policing you. We're actually there to help you to comply so that you are not, fined or closed down, essentially.
Thank you so much. And who else doesn't need help? Because we might call ourselves expert, but then there is no man who knows everything, right? So to the audience, is there any question on the answer that he just given? Is there anything that you'd like to know more from him? If not, then I'll then jump to the next question. The next question, Henny, what are the risks for insurers in the funeral industry?
Okay, so as an accountable institution, non-compliance with FIC during your KYC and customer due diligence process and not having the correct processes in place could lead to fines that I'm going to talk to you about later. So what we've done is we've built an integrated system with Pol 360 where we can make it seamless, have it more efficient, reducing your operating costs. The costs of the checks are industry leading. And what we're doing is from taking your RMCP, which Kevin referenced to earlier and now again, is we take your RMCP, do a risk scoring for you and categorize your risk, do the necessary checks seamlessly and integrated and have an answer instantly during your onboarding process or claims process.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone who can try to summarize on what he has just said? And if you don't raise your hand, I'm coming for you. Tlhakazi. Yes, do you want to say something on what he just said? Okay, let me not try to put on spot, but I think you had an opportunity to think about the questions that I've asked. And the other question is to say, what is fraud? Is there anyone who knows the definition of fraud? If you don't know it, can you please Google it quickly? Or from the top of your head? Anyone, please? Thank you, sir. Your name?
Stefan.
Thank you, Stefan.
So fraud is an action a person takes that will financially impact another person. So it's your actions that has an impact on another party's financial status. That's fraud.
Thank you. They say faith without action is dead. You can sit and say, I want to have 100 million, I'm going to Capitec to take it. But if you don't take action, then we have a problem. But then it becomes fraud when you have an intention to cause harm to the other person or an institution. Thank you for that, sir. Rudolph, the question I have for you is, where did the need for an alternative mandate originate?
Thanks, William. So I'm going to take the audience through a journey, just to give you a bit of background. So your question on our alternative mandate, what happened is QLink received a use case from one of our clients. Now, obviously, everything starts with a problem statement. The issue they had is they provided a mandate-driven solution that required a two-step verification process. At point of sale, a mandate had to be signed, and at a later stage, the individual had to go to a specific employer or department and sign a second mandate. The problem with this manual process, that second mandate was never signed, which means there's multiple of these individuals that thought they had cover. Those funeral policies in this case was never processed. So QLink went back to the drawing board and we realized the reason why the entity decided a second mandate had to be signed is you've got no proof that the individual actually signed that first mandate. So if you do it in the presence of a representative, you would have that security. And again, it's based on fraud, so you would have that security that there would be no fraud. But this was a manual process. It didn't work. Most of these individuals were elderly. They didn't have or lacked the means of traveling to a specific point where they had to sell the second mandate. And with this problem statement in mind, QLink realized the only way to address fraud and to remove that second phase of a mandate is to bring in biometrics. Now, like I said, it will be a journey I'm taking you through. If I just throw the word biometrics to you, you think, okay, fantastic, plug in biometrics. It's like me as a business a consultant goes to the IT and say, give me biometrics. It's not as simple. It's on the lips of everybody, but it's not a simple concept. The second requirement that was said, it needs to be a two-step process that we need to replace. Secondly, it needs to be agent-driven and in person. Now, it's very easy to put down a lot of endpoints you call, but the moment you have in person, agent-driven, you obviously add another level of complexity to it. So that's where it started. A need, it's like any business requirement. There is a need and we needed to address it. So I'll unpack the journey as the questions comes my way.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. In the audience, do we probably have a funeral parlor owner? Any funeral parlor owner? Okay. Do we then have a broker? Thank you so much. To the 360 guys, I think I just want to say, look at what you have done. You have managed to get the industry leaders in one room, and this is your first summit. Imagine what will happen next year. I would also like to be involved in trying to bring people who really need this information and not knowing that they really do need this information. And I think that will help because of the financial industry is under attack, especially if we focus on funeral parlor only. Imagine the burial societies, imagine the brokers, and these are all our clients. And if we have a problem, it takes all of us. And imagine if South Africa can work together. Look at the room, different colors, different race, different genders. We're having a conversation and in peace. And that's amazing. Kevin, how do you recent regulators change impact the fraud detection and risk mitigation in the funeral policies?
So for this question, I sort of want to go a few steps back. That's asking about what recent regulatory changes impact fraud detection, etc. What's important to note is this all starts at home within your FSP. What you first need to consider, or your funeral financial services provider, you need to first consider what risk management processes do you have in place to detect fraudulent activity, for example, in your FSP. And when I talk about that, I'm talking about risk management, I'm talking about your FICA processes, your RMCP, I'm talking about internal training. I mean, training your staff on what is a fraudulent activity or how to identify these sort of trends, for example, is probably one of your best risk mitigation measures that you can take. So from my perspective, and I mean, we spoke about the joint communication earlier, and there's going to be workshops during this year which we can probably bring up to the regulator, to the FSCA and the Prudential Authority. But from my perspective, the first step is to make sure that you actually have the correct processes in place in your own FSP. If you don't have a reporting process, what are you going to do about it? You don't really know what to do. So first things first, identify those potential risks, learn how to mitigate those risks, and then what to do about it.
We really need to have coffee after this session because of, I think, I need some polishing. But out of what we just said, there is a good friend of mine I want to put on spot, and I know she's going to kill me for it, but I'm doing it anyway. Inyiko, what can you tell me regarding the risk management processes? And why do we need them?
I'm glad you put in a disclaimer that I will kill you. I think as insurers, we are in the business of risk, right? So in everything that we do, we need to be mindful of types of risks that we enter into. And key is to how do we mitigate that risk? You need to prepare me for this.
No, it's fine. Thank you so much. Remember we said conversations, right? To you, Rudolph, where is that question? How are we doing on time? Are we still finding time? 5 minutes. Okay. What are the challenges did you encounter when first exploring the possibility of introducing digital or electronic process in the industry?
Okay, so I'm going to test your memory because we're jumping around. But obviously we had this problem statement. We needed to incorporate biometrics. So this started in 2018. Our initial thought as a panel, basically, or as a team, was to put down a specific device, hardware, in the sales agent's hands that could capture a facial biometric as well as have a fingerprint reader. Unfortunately, after launching our first POC, the feedback was not positive. Basically, most of these agents already had a device where they captured either electronic signature or the policy detail. So carrying another device opened themselves up to losing the device. It's costly. So we were sent back to the drawing board and said, listen, fantastic, thank you. We've got a device, but that's not what we want. So the alternative, and obviously as technology increases or improves, we realized you could actually design an SDK that could be plugged into an app that can be downloaded on any phone, and that's exactly what we did. The easy part was capturing the biometrics, the facial biometrics. The difficult part was capturing the fingerprints, because it's easy to use a fingerprint reader. So we had to do a lot of trial and testing to enable the SDK to control the device's camera, but obviously the key would be not to save that image within the gallery of the phone. It just stores it within the SDK. That was our second attempt. We launched or published the app in the Play Store. Everything went fantastic up until the point. And like I said, this is a journey. So hopefully I get the second question so I don't lose you guys in the next phase.
You know what? I think let's go right into it. And what were the key learning regarding the verification, DHA availability, and how were these challenges overcame?
Okay. Thanks for that, William. So what we experienced is we provided an online solution to the agents. But obviously we're not experts, we're IT experts. The sales agents actually do the groundwork. So what we experienced is you always want to verify against the golden source, which is the Department of Home Affairs, either a face or a fingerprint. But at times, you've got intermittent uptime from DHA. So that was a problem we needed to obviously solve. The second problem is these agents would sell in rural areas with no connectivity. I'm not saying low connectivity, no connectivity. So the sales journey could not continue. So again, and Frans is sitting there, the IT manager, from a business perspective, I just asked, now you need to provide all the online functionality offline. And he said, well, is that basically your business requirement? Where's the spec? I said, there's a spec. I need something. Now, obviously, it's not as easy. It was trial, because remember, if you take a photo of a photo, it will verify against DHA. So you needed that liveliness component within offline functionality. And finally, we got it right. So we're at this stage now where our app is available on the Play Store. What we actually train the agents to do is to switch the phone, or to log in, you get a token, to switch your phone in offline mode, and you can sell basically anywhere, anytime, where the DHA is up, or if you've got connectivity. Once you're in a space where you've got connectivity again, all the syncing of the APIs will happen, and a result will be pushed back to the application. So this was a 7-year journey. Let me just explain. It wasn't a 7th-month project. It was a journey, and that's where we are now as, like I said, we want to enable the industry to sell based on regulation. And this was a request, and it took time, but we got there.
Thank you so much. With you speaking like that, you remind me of a friend of mine. I call him a genius. Marius, you stand here when I enter. You are speaking with AI. I say, what is he saying? What's happening? But for sure, the reason why I listen to you is because of everywhere I go, everything that I say, when I open a phone, something that I've said start appearing. Therefore, I will then say, we are from all age where we used to have papers. Now we are transitioning to digitization. Therefore, there is a gap because of, we might know, we are industry leaders, we are already in forefront because of we are learning every day. But imagine more about people who are really doing the work, who are really using those systems, and then they need to understand it so that they can serve our communities. Therefore, it says with those risk guys, then the risk is increasing, it's going high, then we are in trouble. The other question for you, Henny, how can funeral insurers detect fraudulent policies?
Okay, so the simple answer is that obviously there could be ghost policies, there could be falsified claims, and during the funeral process from beginning to end, there could be a lot of fraud, but using ID verification integrated with POL 360 biometric verification on either onboarding and or claims side, you can prevent those kinds of frauds.
Thank you so much. For the fact that you mentioned POL 360, these guys, I know them. We cut from same clothes. We share a father, but I think different mothers because we don't look the same, right? So I believe that we are in good hands, especially having you guys and also working with POL 360, because in everything, administration is the most important thing. When we look around, we see with communities in our societies, we see that based on administration, whether you call it government or what, if you are not good with administration, things fall apart. Thank God to G and U. I see that the streets are being swept, the trees are being cut, and therefore, which means we are doing something right. And why the whole of Africa are trying to come into South Africa, why the whole world is looking at South Africa, and why the biggest president, they start fighting with us. Imagine if those guys start fighting with us, what will happen? Let's hopefully next year we'll come prepared. But the last question that have not been answered, which was my question. So my question is, what is the impact of fraud? And that I'll then try to answer it. For the fact that we are the real fishers, please don't tell Mr. Fisher. We are the real fishers, myself included. So I also learned from him. I have learned from Mr. Fisher. I have learned from Byron. Probably I turned good because of Byron was strict, right? So to the real fishers, imagine based on poverty, people who resort to poverty because there is unemployment. And there is unemployment because you go to university, there is no qualification of insurance or teaches you how to sell. If you don't have anyone to sell, we have a problem. And if we are selling, we don't have anyone who can buy the policy, then we have a problem. But everyone is going to this fish pond or this, where there is water, and everyone is taking, but there is no one who's trying to build in the food so that we can remain sustainable. Therefore, that results in the premium increasing, that results in business going down, claim ratio going high, and which means it's a problem. And I think we are all old. Our children need this industry so that they can have better tomorrow. So to the organizers, thank you so much for organizing this. And I believe so much in it. And then thank you for making me part of it. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
All righty then. So, Mr. William mentioning there, some of you guys are cut from the same cloth. If it's the same cloth as that suit is made out of, it's some quality premium cloth, I can tell you that much. Appreciate the insights there. I must say one thing that Rudolph brought up, jargon without understanding is very useless. And we see that in our space, in the media space and marketing space, where people like to use buzzwords, much like people like to throw around biometrics as a term. We we'll put a pin in it, and then we'll do some creative and swivel down and come back to put the pin and the thing and the creative, and it must be organic. All those words, if you use them with no meaning, they are very useless. So once again, just reiterating how important education is in the sector and the collaboration. Now, moving on to we're getting close to our close now. We're going to have some success stories. And that's important because we live in a world, and a lot of our discussion today has been based around the digitization and the automation of everything that we do. But we can't move forward without taking into consideration the importance that human element still has in every, the EQ of the world and how we do business. And so one of those ways that we see it definitely being relevant is how we get testimonials, how we rate things, we conversate. Some of the best business leads you can get is from some people talking around a braai about you or on a golf course. So it's with that in mind that we turn to our success stories today, and we'll be hearing an inspiring success story from a 360 administration and systems client, actually two of them indeed. The first one we're going to call up is Mr. Sheldon from Fern Funerals.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, business professionals, suppliers, and everybody here today. I'm truly honored to stand before you and to share a few words of my journey being in the funeral industry and my journey being with Paul 360. But before I start, I want to begin by asking how many of you knew exactly what you wanted to be in life from a young age? It was totally different. I was basically born into the funeral industry. While my classmates were playing in the fields and doing and dreaming big things, I was busy preparing deceased. I was busy setting up graves. I was busy doing removals. And you can imagine me being in primary school, coming to school on a Monday morning, and all my friends is speaking about their weekend. And here I come and I say that I had a great weekend. I set up 2 graves. I did 2 removals. And I signed up some policies. And that's where my journey started in the funeral industry. My journey in the industry began in 1996 when my parents, my brother here in the audience, and I started our family funeral business. I was still in primary school, like I said, but I was involved in the day-to-day running of the funeral business. I did grave setups, I did removals, I did everything revolving the funeral industry. And that is where my calling started, and it wasn't where I was forced to be in the industry because my parents wanted me to be in the industry. I just latched onto it and I had that passion that this is what I need to do. And while, like I said, my peers was spending their weekends at parties, playing sports, I was busy serving families. The first funeral that I ever conducted was a baby funeral, which is the hardest to do. And at that age, I never realized or understand the weight of loss. But I knew one thing, that I had to be strong for the grieving family. That moment shaped me. It taught me that the funeral service is not just about handling logistics. It's about being present, offering comfort, and making a difference in people's hardest moments. After matriculating, I stepped into the business full-time. Over the years, what started as a small family operation grew into 9 branches, 3 mortuary facilities across the Western Cape with a team over 75 dedicated staff members. But success did not come without challenges. And I believe all of us can agree to that. As the business expanded, we faced something many of you sitting here can relate to the increasing complexity of managing operations efficiently while maintaining the personal touch that defines our industry. I quickly realized that to continue growing and serving families at the highest level, we need to adapt, modernize, and streamline our processes. That's when I found Paul 360, and it changed everything. Our industry is deeply rooted in tradition, respect, and dignity, and rightfully so. But just because we honor tradition doesn't mean we have to fear change. In fact, failing to evolve is what puts business at risk. Families today expect efficiency, seamless service, and professionalism, and we owe it to them to deliver on those expectations. When I started looking for a policy software system, and I've been around the block with many systems, but I couldn't find a system that could give me what I was looking for. I can agree with Marius that I'm constantly wanting to innovate and upgrade and look for new things within the funeral industry. I was looking for a tool or the software. I wasn't just looking for a tool, I was looking for a game changer. I wanted something that would not only improve our workflow, but also give my team the ability to serve families faster and better. And that's exactly what Paul 360 delivered. Before, policy management and claims processes were time-consuming, paper-heavy, and prone delays. And we can agree, I think we spoke about that earlier, all the paperwork and all of that stuff. You know, now with Paul 360, everything is streamlined. From real-time data across tracking faster claims, simplifying policy tracking. My team can now focus on what truly matters, and that is to support grieving families, rather than getting buried in paperwork. And I can proudly stand here and say that Fern is totally paperless. We are fully digital, all thanks to Paul 360. Let me be clear. Thank you. Let me be clear, embracing technology does not mean losing our human touch. I think Marius mentioned that. We always need us as humans. If anything, it strengthens it. When our systems are efficient, we have more time to do what we do best, and that's offering compassion, dignity, and exceptional service. That is the core of any of our businesses here today. But here's the reality. Our industry is changing. The way we serve, the way families engage with us, and the expectations placed upon us are well evolving. The question is, are we involving with it? So I challenge you today, whether you are a funeral director or a business owner, how can you do better? How can you integrate technology, improve efficiency, and still maintain the heart and soul of this profession? And we can see today there's a lot of suppliers that we can connect with and that can improve our business. Because the truth is, if we don't embrace innovation, we will fall behind. And that's not an option for any of us as funeral directors. You know, many times when people ask me, what do I do? I think we mentioned that earlier. And I tell them that I'm a funeral director and I've been in the industry since my school days, they would always say, wow, but that must be tough. And I said, yes, it is tough. I mean, any funeral director can agree with me, it is tough. But it has its perks, and I always say my clients doesn't complain, you know. The clients that we work with, they don't talk back. So at least for that, it helps us with doing what we need to do. At the end of the day, our success is not measured by the number of funerals we conduct. And I think that is the majority of the time people look at how much funerals a company do and we think they are very successful. But it's not about the number of funerals we conduct, but by the lives we touch, the comfort we provide, and the trust we build with the families we serve. We are not just in the business for funerals. We are in the business of care, compassion, and dignity. And if we embrace the tools and the innovation that help us serve better, we don't just grow our business, we strengthen our communities. And all of those tools is right here where we are today. They are all here for us to make that step or take that step, to innovate, to change. I know change is difficult. When I spoke to my fathers about the changes that I need to do, streamer, it's a bit difficult for them to accept it. But if you look back now and we look where we've been and where we are now, they can be proud of us. And I need to salute Paul 360 because without them, we wouldn't have been where we are today, where we are streaming everything. And I know that it's not going to stop here. We are still going into higher heights and higher heights. So let's honor our traditions, but let's also embrace the future. Because when we do, we don't just keep up with the times, we lead the way. And I want to acknowledge Paul 360, Marius, and Stephen, that we've been doing business for many years, but we never saw each other or met each other face to face until late last year when I got to meet them at my premises. And I think from there, I don't see Paul 360 as just a software system that we are using. I see them as a partner within my business. And I see how we can grow. And what I like about them is it's not just a business model, take it and that's it. With Paul 360, I can develop, whatever I want to do, they are open. And that is what I was looking for. If something comes to mind, I will email Marius and say, how can we do this? Can we do that? Though sometimes I was probably thinking, here's an email of him again. But it's all about the technology, the innovation. If I think of something, wherever I go, I see what's happening. How can I incorporate that into our industry? You know, the funeral industry is a total different industry. And many times people think you can't incorporate technology, you can't incorporate many things within the industry because it is a traditional industry. But times has changed, and we can see here in Johannesburg, even in Cape Town, the clients are looking for better stuff. They are looking for bigger things, you know, where vehicles is concerned, where graves is concerned. Nowadays, a funeral is more expensive than a wedding. And that is how times evolve. So we need to stay with the times. And that's the only way we are going to grow our industry and obviously comply to all of the regulations. Because I know there's many that doesn't comply. But us here, let us comply and let us build our business to the next level. And at the end of the day, our core function is to serve the bereaved families. And with that, I want to thank Marius, Stephen, thank you so much, and Warren, thank you.
Sheldon. Big thank you to Sheldon. All right, we have a second testimonial. Also a 360 administration and systems client. Please, Amogelang from Amogelang Insurance Brokers to the stage. Musi, are you also coming?
He wants me to bring this.
Okay.
I'm saving it. You should. Good afternoon.
afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, guys. I've just looked at the program now. It seems to me I'm the last person to speak. After me, there will be no one except the program director. So thanks, Mr. Marias, Mr. Stevens, for saving the best for last. Whatever that has been said today, I'm sure all of us have already forgotten what has been happening the whole day here. What you guys will remember, it is me, the last person. So guys, to be quite honest, I think, yes, I'm Amogelang. I'm from Amogelang Insurance Brokers. And I'm with my CEO, Ms. Mabel Soga. She's here to support me. And hopefully, immediately after this, I'm going to get a raise. Guys, to be quite honest, I'm really honored to be part of this prestigious event. As Amogelang Insurance Brokers, obviously, for us to get an invitation, it is the invite. It's already a testament to what we have grown to be as Amogelang Insurance Brokers. I'm not a client for 360 administration and systems. I'm not a client, guys. I'm their baby. I don't even know any other systems of funerals except 360 systems. So really, it is really unfair for them to say I'm a client. I'm not a client. You guys have just heard Mr. Stevens when he said, "Oh, Commander, you are here." I was there in that little room somewhere in Blaigori when the birth of 360 administration and systems was born. So I don't know any other system. Coming to this event, I wanted to prepare a speech, and I didn't know what I was going to say. And I wanted to rely on the so-called AI to write me a fancy speech. But I thought, look, the challenges and the problem we are having as young entrepreneurs or as brokers and stuff, to be quite honest, they are real. You cannot fabricate the challenges we are having on the ground. Those challenges are real, guys. The houses of the funeral directors are being banned. The agents are being, tortured and abused if the claims are not paid. We are fighting every day on the ground. But like I've said, ever since the Amogelang Insurance Brokers' birth, I've always used the POL 360 systems. I was going to say at the end of this talk, I'm here today because of the big volumes that my brokerage has been submitting to all the partners AIB is having. We submit big volumes. No, seriously. And if you are here, you are KGI or Kim Price, One Life, I just want to mention stuff that are here, and you want us to be part of your company, you must know, if it is not 360 administration systems way, then there is no way. Do you guys understand what I'm saying? Let me repeat that. If you want me to bring big volumes to KGA or to One Life or Kim Price, if the system you're going to be using is not going to be 360 administration and systems, then there's not going to be any business we're going to be doing with you guys. Because that's the only best system I know. Today, I'm not just a broker due to we have left all the, all the difficult issues, background to the Pol 360 to do the request of the premiums of our clients, for them to organize the pay-at type of payment systems. AIB today, for us to submit those big volumes, guys, is because we don't need to worry about all these other back support functions. Pol 360 is handling that. And that has really made AIB to look kind of like fancy, because if a client comes to our office and say, sorry, Mr. Amogelang, can I please check if my policy is up to date and so and so. I always like it when the ladies who are sitting at the reception, they'll go to the laptop and say, give me your card, ma'am, let me have a look. We are no longer using those, those flash Baptemba, where if uncle is late with the flash book where the client has been written and the client wants to pay, they'll just keep your money somewhere there. So our systems and that Pol 360 has offered us, they've actually made our business look quite fancy. Today we are in 4 provinces. That is your Northern Cape, Gauteng, Free State, and the Northwest, with over 18 branches. What's that place? Appington, from Appington to Madikwe. An uncle can write a policy in Madikwe, and the sister can check that policy in Appington, there and there. She doesn't need to travel to Madikwe to go and pay. She can pay it, whatever outlets that they pay at and everything else is offering, wherever they are in South Africa. I mean, for me, that's magic, man. So I really love to thank Pol 360. Today, I'm on my way of becoming an insurer. Yeah, you've heard people. You've heard people talking about incubate with Assupol. I am the first client. Yeah. All of you guys, if you're going to be doing any work with incubate with Assupol, you must know that AIB was the first. And it was not by chance. It was because we were dedicated in selling, because that was our core business, selling funeral policies. And the rest, we left to 360 administration and systems. So we definitely where we are today because of these guys, to be quite honest. If it wasn't because of them, the industry wouldn't have known anything about AIB. Today I'm sitting here with all fine people because of 360 administration and systems. So it means I'm also an important person in this room. We share profit, and the profit that we share, I'm the major shareholder, Mr. Msiwa, yeah? I'm the major shareholder. I make decisions of my business. They don't tell me what to do. They used to tell me then when I was a broker. But today, because of how fancy my business has looked with the help of Mr. Stephen and Marius and Mr. Paul, also Mr. Paul here am I today competing with the big boys. And I'm coming for you guys, KGA, the Kim Prices of this world. I'm gunning for you guys. But I wouldn't be saying whatever I'm saying, guys, today with this vigor if I knew that I don't have the right partners, like 360 administration and system. Mr. Stevens, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Petrosa.
Watch the space. Next year, I'm one of the sponsors. Thank you.
Mr. Petrus, thank you. I bet no one expected a testimonial like that. That was a roller coaster ride. Yeah, that came complete with threats, inspiring words. I must say, I started getting, I had a moment of reminisce there when you were saying, no, I'm the boss, I make the rules. I was like, where have I heard that before? And I said, that's what I say when I'm playing golf with my mates. I said, no, you guys can come to the house. I'm the boss of the house. Then I have to make that phone call from the car. Hello, my love. Can the guys come over for golf? One of the things that we've spoken about today is how different everybody interacts with the industry across the board. And I was just thinking to myself now, if I went to go pay my policy and it was $600 and the person said, cool, and then kept it under a stamp and said, you're covered, I wouldn't have a lot of peace of mind. So I think the ability to have these transactions going through in real time makes a big difference. Right, on that note, we're going to conclude the conference. Once again, a big heartfelt thank you to all our incredible sponsors. And just a quick look at all of them there. We've got our platinum sponsor, KGA Life. We've got our gold sponsors, Incubate with Assupol. We've got Ultron, King Price, Q-Link, Peach Payments, Payat, Q, Netcash, StratCol, One Life, Octomate Education, who has a very cool team up there. I met all of them. We've got Masthead and EasyPay. Our gift bag sponsor, of course, Ecom, and sponsoring the prize a little bit earlier. Our emerging innovator sponsors, Catalyst, Linbaz, and Master Drive. Our media partner, FA News. Don't get it wrong, guys. And of course, our program supporter, Cover, and then our events partners, ChilliPix. So, what's happening for the rest of the day? As I said, the bar, I believe, is opening, and we encourage you guys to continue the conversations. Our exhibition area is still open, so you can pop up there. I believe the food should still be going. And then there are a select few people who have been invited to the KGA Life Breakaway. So that's going to start now. You can head upstairs, you'll head through the exhibition area, and then event staff will help you find where that is. So those of you who are invited for that, you can head up for that. But on that note, I hope you all learned a lot today, because in this business, knowledge isn't just power, it's premium. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you very much for having me.